Here.
With that, if everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item.
1599 Ridge Road, single-family residence. Located at 1599 Ridge Road, applicant Joe Barone is requesting area variances to allow front and side setbacks less than what is required associated with the construction of a 1,508 square foot single-family residence on a .62 acre parcel having SBA number 080.02-2-32, located in an R3 single-family residential district under section 350-12 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Yep.
Thank you. Dan Peters, I'm the architect involved with this project. Appeared before this board a couple months back. Last time we were here, we presented essentially the same plan with some adjustments that I'm going to talk about. I did hand out an updated folded plan that's in front of you there. I also, so you know, included approval from Department of Health for their septic system that Dean Bay designed, as well as a footprint of the house planned. It's just a mirror image because last time the one I gave you was the wrong one. So this one is the right one. So the adjustments that were done last time when we were here, the septic system was planned in the south portion of the property, which would have been within the floodplain. There is a delineated kind of gray snake-looking line that's on the property there. Who's ever navigating, thank you. The house itself is the shaded out rectangular-looking piece there, and that is in the same position that we showed last time. It's 66 point something feet. I can't remember and see that far. But it's the setback off the road is 60, so we're not asking for a variance there. The septic system which was last time designed south of the house is now in the front of the house, north of the house. You can see where the line comes out of the house into a 1250 tank, and then the delineated leach area. That's all been submitted to Department of Health and approved based on that paperwork I gave you. And the ask tonight is similar to last time, is side yard setback variance. So instead of the 15 feet, it's the same numbers that this plan shows as last time. So we're asking for leniency on the 2 side yards. We did load the house closer to the east than the west because that's where the majority of the utility lines are going to be coming through, so we thought we needed the room there so we weren't digging on the neighbor's property. And with me tonight, I forgot to say, Sean Fico. He's the owner of the property, and Joe Barone, who I'm assisting as the applicant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
glad you guys were able to get the Monroe County Department of Health approval. So, any concerns with building in the protected FEMA floodway at this point, or is there anything that you guys are doing?
We're going to have to mitigate, raise the house. There's construction means and methods that we're aware of that we have to build. I will state, it's not part of this application, but the owner likely is going to redelineate. That's not been confirmed. He is not sure on that yet. We're trying to get an idea of time and process. We're asking for approval as this sits. It's understood that if he leaves the delineation the way it's currently shown, he's going to have to build the house per standards within a floodplain.
Gotcha, okay. All right. Board have any questions?
Just to clarify, to make sure that I do have the setbacks correctly, we're looking at 7.86 on the west, 5 feet on the east, and then 66.36 front setback now as opposed to what was the previous house.
The previous house was the same. Delineated on this, when you say previous house, you don't mean the existing house?
No, the house that used to be there
The house that used to be there was a lot closer.
was a
than
lot
what-
closer to the road, so you're
We're
almost
further
doubling
back
that
than that.
setback.
Right,
Okay,
right. I want to say, and I'm shooting from the hip a bit, the original house was in the 35-foot range. And that's off the west property corner, which is the closest one.
right,
The east property corner, it's further away.
correct.
Yeah, it looks like it was about 20 feet based on what
Right.
you provided us.
Hey, Dan, if you're going to build it with acknowledging that the floodway zone is as delineated on your plan, would the grading change at all? I mean, you would raise the grading or just the house itself?
We anticipate there's going to be some grading because of the fact that we're trying to get, obviously, out of a potentially wet area. But the grading that we've determined is just going to be just to keep anything away from the house. It's not going to be graded, I would think, plus or minus 10 feet around the house perimeter. The intention is not to go and regrade the whole site.
Thank you.
If there's any public that wants to speak for or against this project, please come up. That, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other questions board may have? All right. With that, guess I'll move forward with seeker. I'd like to make a motion for a type 2 action under seeker pursuant to NYCR section 617.5 of the Environmental Code.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to read the motion?
Because it's in the floodplain, are we allowed to approve it without DEC approval, or?
Yeah,
or
so
is
actually,
it pending DEC approval?
the DEC wouldn't really be getting involved in this. It's a town-issued floodplain permit that would be issued by our office.
Okay, all right, so I don't need, all right.
Josh, is there a DEC permit required even outside of the town permitting process?
No, not that I'm aware of. There's no wetlands on the site, just the floodplain.
Okay.
The map that's on the screen right now, it notes that site disturbances wouldn't be required to submit to DEC for a permit.
Right, those notes need to be edited, they're incorrect.
Okay, just wanted to
Okay,
be clear.
all right.
Yep.
Thanks, Josh.
That was my concern. Thank you. All right, I can make a motion if no one has any further questions. All right, I'd like to make a motion to grant area variances at 1599 Ridge Road as follows: a 5-foot east side setback, a 7.86 west side setback, a front setback, of 66.36 feet associated with the construction of a 1,508 square foot single-family residence on a .62 acre parcel with SBL number 080.02-2-32, located in an R3 single-family district under the section 350-12 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Second.
Mrs. Volo,
Aye?
Mr. Leibner,
Aye.
Mr. Centola,
Aye.
Mr. Short,
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato.
Aye.
And then that's conditioned, 1-year meaningful construction, receipt and approval of all necessary government permits. Does this also need planning board approval, Josh?
No, it would not.
Okay. And to comply with whatever building requirements based on the 5-foot setback to the property line, as well as any flood construction methods needed.
You have your zoning variance.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, ready for 671, excuse me, Willow Point. All right, 671 Willow Point Lane, accessory structure. Located at 671 Willow Point Lane, applicant Brian Bishoping is requesting area variances to allow a side and rear setback less than what is required, and to allow the placement of an accessory structure to be nearer to the front property line than the rear line of the main residence, associated with the construction of a 500 square foot detached wood frame structure on a 0.46 acre parcel having SBL number 065.13-2-11, located in an R3 single-family residential district under sections 350-12 and 350-36 of the Code of the Town of Webster. Good evening.
All right, well, good evening, Board. My name's Adam Cummings. I'm the engineer for the project, helping out my friend Brian Bishoping, who's the applicant and the owner of this property. So I don't have anything else to add on those two variances that we have on there. It is a unique lot, since it's a corner lot with the two intersecting roads. So those always present unique challenges, since there is no real backyard or rear lot. It's always two front yards, two sides. We did look into making this accessory structure code compliant, but that would push it to the back or the further to the west part of this property, and that's where the overhead power lines are that feed the building. So as the application states, that was deemed to be unfeasible because of the cost that would be incurred to move such a service line. And I would like to note that the plan is to remove the existing shed that is in the same location. That's been there for decades, and this would replace that. The other variance part is to have it further than the back plane or the rear the rear of the building plane. So having that pushed a little forward, it's still not beyond the front of the house, so there wouldn't be a front setback variance, which is why that's not listed there. And I don't have anything else to add other than any questions the board might have.
Can you, sorry, you mentioned that you're not looking for a front setback variance, is that?
Correct. It's just the side and rear setback, and then the other variance is that it's not nearer to the front property line than the rear line of the main residence, which is the wording of your code here in town.
I have two questions.
Certainly.
Is there a reason, I guess number one, is there a reason that this couldn't be attached to the existing house so that then at least that, well, the side setback variance would not be required as well, or the,
That was investigated, but there was so much more cost of attaching it on. Architecturally, it's a lot more difficult to just attach it onto the existing garage.
okay.
And then, in terms of the side, it could be pushed further to the south to minimize that one, but the thought was there's already an existing structure at that point. There was an original talk with the code enforcement building department here to push it closer to the property line, but that wasn't deemed to be wanted by the applicant, and really didn't want to push it to the 3-foot threshold that would require a state variance. So 5-foot was agreed upon, and it looks similar to a lot of the other accessory structures that are in the neighborhood. I counted at least 7 from when I went around to the neighboring 4 streets in the area.
So, if I heard you correctly, there is, I guess, you guys did investigate moving it closer instead of, I'm reading this correct, I don't know, is it 20 feet plus or minus off of the house? I have 57.8, but that's to the property line, not to the structure itself.
Right, we have it as 5 feet to the property line. Code requires 15, so that's why.
Yeah, I guess my question is, you guys explored moving it closer to the house, further away from the property line?
Yes, yes.
And the reason for not doing that was because there was an existing shed, wooden shed there?
That was the logic and the preference by the applicant to still have it there. There is, I mean, that's certainly the prerogative of the board. If you deny it, in terms of that, he could still shift it, hoping that the location in terms of the proximity to its location with the, it's a strange one, the no nearer to the front property line than the rear line of the main residence. So meaning it could be shifted to the south if that other variance was granted, but the applicant would like to pursue this location. Once again, the other original one was code compliance, but as soon as the overhead lines became in, we didn't deem it to find full code compliance as a viable option.
And going back to, right, so no such building shall be placed nearer to the front property line than the rear line or footprint of the main building or
Right.
residence, right? I mean,
Right.
so as we currently have it situated now, the front of the proposed garage is in line with the front of
Correct.
of the house.
Correct.
Versus pushing it back. Now, we do have the overhead power lines that are there. It's been about 4 or 5 weeks since I've been out there. But it is feasible to also push that back,
Not
probably,
all the way for full compliance.
not for
because-
full compliance, but
Right, so you've got 25 feet for the building, that entire building would have to be pushed back the 25 feet in line with, the dimension line says 57.8, and that's pointing to the back side of the building. That whole building would have to be pushed back 25 feet.
to
That's still
that
too
line.
close of a proximity for the overhead power line.
understood. Yep, I gotcha.
The plan says proposed garage, there's no driveway. What do you intend to use the structure for?
So the applicant's plan, as was stated in there, to house, he's got quite a bit of outdoor storage items. He does have multiple snowmobiles, he's got a lawn tractor. He has had some neighbors asking if they could, or if he could, move some of his items to not be out on the lawn, so this would provide him storage for those to get them out of there.
Thank you.
But no plans for a driveway. And it's really just for lack of a better term, it's called a garage, but it's an accessory structure, but he would drive his tractor in there and things.
Oh, no, it says garage and
Yeah.
without, there's no driveway shown, so I just
Right.
wanted to clarify that.
Now, I know we talked that you can't move it entirely into compliance with the overhead line. Is it possible to shift it back from the front setback of the house, I don't know, 5-8 feet or so, so it's just a little further back?
Yes.
I realize there's not a lot of backyard
Yep.
because of that corner lot, but
Yeah, I can speak with Brian on that, but that is a feasible option to minimize the variance. Once again, his preference is to put it where it is. It's more symmetric, it lends itself to it, but yes, it can be pushed back a little further.
The plans that we received, there were a picture of a set of plans that we received.
Yep.
I can't place it on the site, is the garage door going to be facing Willow Lane, or is it going to be facing the back
It would be
property
facing
line?
Willow Lane, yes.
So is there going to be a driveway then that the applicant's going to be seeking to gain access to?
No. Once again, it's got a lawn tractor. It would be driven across the lawn, and if he had to pull his snowmobile trailer in, he would just put that across the lawn as well, just like is done right now.
What's the second floor going to be used for?
Storage.
Any other questions right now from the board? Open it up to the public. Anybody speak for or against the project?
Good evening. My name is Jan Armentrout of 670 Willow Lane. I'm the neighbor across from the subject property. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board regarding the application to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Brian Bishoping of 671 Willow Lane, Lot 44 in the Lakedale subdivision. Mr. Bishoping is seeking to erect a 500-square-foot standing accessory building on his property, which is located directly across the street from my home, and is requesting multiple variances for the proposed accessory structure. Josh, could you start the PowerPoint for me, please?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Well, while you're working, and these pictures in this PowerPoint is super important that we're able to open it. Bridget, I hope you can help us out if need be. Monroe County is known nationally for its well-planned and well-preserved beautiful suburbs. Webster is currently rated in the top 10 of Rochester suburbs for the reasons we know, having chosen to live here. The Lakedale subdivision began to be developed in the late 60s. Those of you of an age might know my house as Mildred and Lloyd Van Hoover's house. It was quite, I guess, the house when it was built, as it was a custom model by Krautwist and Little to a ranch house. It is now a charming neighborhood with middle-class affordable properties. mature landscaping, and well-maintained properties, with the property at 671 Willow Lane being the exception. Planning and zoning have allowed our suburbs to maintain their real attractiveness, and I thank you for that and your service for probably was mostly a thankless job. And I hope that we continue to see careful evaluating of variance appeals and enforcing code. And I think I got to wait for the PowerPoint to catch up. There we are. Okay, so Josh, if I just wave my hand at you? Yep. You'll flip, okay. So this is a neighborhood. For those of people who might not be aware, it's bounded by Clem, 250, and there's this Lakedale subdivision. Next. No, to say next. Here is the views of the neighborhood from both Brian Bishoping's house and my own. And I think you can see there that this is, big houses on usually 0.6 acres, well-maintained, looking nice. This is Willow Lane and Cloverwood. Cloverwood is what backs up to Brian's property. And Willow is, of course, what we're talking about. 2 area variances are being requested. In his documentation, Mr. Bishoping suggests that there will be no undesirable changes in the character of the neighborhood and no detriment will be created to nearby properties. So that's my house right there, okay?
Which one?
The
you're pointing
white
to a
ranch
screen, I
right
can't-
there, lower
Thank you.
left-hand corner. Can you go to the next slide, please? And this is a view of the neighborhood from Mill Creek Run. When we talk about that crossing between the two roads, it's Mill Creek Run and Willow. And these, again, you can see the type of neighborhood it is. They said mature landscaping, very desirable. In fact, the proposed property will create undesirable changes and will be a detriment to my property specifically. Next, please. The neighborhood is zoned residential and looks residential, okay, as we just saw in those pictures. This is a picture of the property where both, and what's circled or squared in red, is where the existing metal steel shed is located, and it's quite small. Can you blow that up at all, Josh? And then, so you can barely see the little shed that's in there. So we're not talking a comparable, shed to shed sort of transition. The construction of a 25 by 20 by 20 foot high outbuilding will cause Mr. Bishoping's property to look even more commercial than it already does, in contrast to the rest of the neighborhood. And I want you to take a good look at that. And remember, it's a photo, it's not even in 3D. Mr. Bishoping is also proposing to violate code 350-36.A.1, from which he has not requested a variance. Should the plan be approved, okay, next. And that's the plan that the engineer nicely discussed. And then next, here's an elevation of this. And I'm not entirely sure, maybe you can tell me. I've seen 2 different architectural firm names on documents. I'm not sure that you drew these.
No, I did not.
Okay, so, right there, I'm not really sure what we're talking about, because my look at these documents shows 20 foot of siding facing my house and the entrance with a concrete slab in front of it to the shed or utility building being in front of the proposed building. So there'll be the house, the deteriorating airstream, a concrete slab, and then this new building, okay? Should the plan be approved, the direct view from my house, my living room, my front porch, the front gardens, will be a house in need of upkeep with an attached garage, a deteriorating Airstream trailer that has not moved in 30 years, does not have a license plate in violation of Town Code Chapter 324, Sections 2, 3, and 4, a slab of concrete and 20 foot of siding, 20 feet high with no windows. This is not compatible with any other property in the neighborhood and suggests that the proposed building may have a variety of uses yet to be determined, perhaps requiring down the line a driveway. Further, the late afternoon sun out Willow Lane grades down to Mill Creek. So on the western side, the sun comes in, now I've got this building here, it cuts, okay? The sun would be blocked by the building in the late afternoon in spring and summer, and that will impact my use of my side yards, the gardens that I have there, as well as my neighbor across the creek who could not be here this evening. In Webster, as we know, sunshine is real important when we can get it. Can we go to the next slide, please? The applicant contends that accessory structures and utility sheds are common in the area. Common, perhaps, numerous, not so much, and none approaching the 500 square foot that is being proposed. As the existing sheds in the neighborhood do not appear to be over 200 square feet with any significance, the applicant requesting a 150% variance from existing allowances is pretty extreme. Can we go, okay, and now, and I can't see that far away from here. If, in fact, you look...
Excuse me, I have to use the mic.
Is there a handheld or...
There is not.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try, this is better. If you look at this slide, the house count in the area that we just talked about in the subdivision is 403, or there, give or take one or two. Okay, the accessory structures are circled in red that are around. The big yellow triangle is the proposed building. So the percent of houses with accessory structures are 4.9%. If the number of unofficial accessory structures, people just go to Lowe's and find that shed, double, only about 9% of houses have accessory structures and/or sheds. The accessory structures in existence appear to accommodate normal residential, lawn tractors, recreational equipment, items, garden tools, etc. Next, please.
It looks like we're about halfway through, if we can
We'll wrap real quick here.
pick it up. Thank you.
Okay, that's a typical subdivision shed. And that, as you can see, this is kitty corner from my house the other way. No objections, it's cute, it's quaint, it's reasonable. Next. Claim that there are no impacts. Okay, this was the view from my house right now. I'm not convinced that a 500 square foot structure is going to make a difference. In the physical and environmental conditions section of the application, Mr. Bischoping contends that the neighborhood would be improved by the placement of this large building where it is proposed, as it would provide screening of recreational vehicles and rubbish that currently exists on the property. I am less than confident. I have two other concerns that I wish to share with you. Next, please. And this, again, this is the street as it is now, and, there'd be a building. Next. Again, all right, so Brian submitted letters or signatures from people saying that they had my and his immediate neighbors, no objections. Next, please. And he also claimed that this was not self-created. Well, the need to store recreational vehicles, land-based or marine, is always self-created. The applicant is a self-employed electrician with a home-based business. If the business requires storage or equipment that exceeds residential standards, it is no longer a home-based business. And to claim that the structure would be an asset to the community because it would increase screening is only appreciated because of the unkept property yard, waste, and multiple vehicles the applicant has placed on the property. Next, please. These are the views, and I want you to look very carefully. You'll see little red spots from those neighbors who sign saying, yeah, this is okay. That's how much or where they would actually see the building. Next, please. And again, you can see the way the street's laid out. I'm the person who's across the street. Next, please. In terms of the use of the building, it's questionable, as neighbors told me that Brian has to have a place for his business equipment. I replied that we're not zoned for business. Another elderly neighbor, a practicing Jehovah's Witness, told me she signed only because she thought it was just a shed and was horrified to learn how big it was and that she was misled into becoming part of government and politics that is incompatible with her faith. Most concerning, though, is the third neighbor told me not to look closely at the border between his and Mr. Bishoping's property, as his had business going with Mr. Bishoping. I believe, next please, this business was the placement of buried drain pipes by Mr. Bishoping last month, most likely necessary for stability of the ground for construction of the proposed building, and no permit was displayed. Those pipes empty into the storm sewer that discharges into Mill Creek. As this drainage affects adjacent properties, I understand that it would have had the scrutiny as described in number 17 of the short environmental assessment form, quote, "will the proposed action create stormwater discharge either from point or non-point sources?" Mr. Bishoping referenced screening with his letter to the board and maintaining the existing screening along the northern side of his property. He has neglected screening on any other side. How is this building to be accessed? The plans make no mention of driveways, reinforced grass areas, or other turf reinforcement for accessing the structure. My property is in the floodway for Mill Creek. In the 32 years that I have lived there, the volume of stormwater and the size of the creek bed has increased. Especially in Webster, following the rules for stormwater management is particularly important. This month, an additional small ditch was dug for discharge into the Willow Lane storm sewers. So that's the latest one on the far left. Then that's where the pipes are buried, and that's where you can see construction materials that were used in that project. Call it a shed, a utility building, a garage, a pole barn, all names I have seen on documents submitted by the applicant. This project is not appropriate for the residential neighborhood in which it is proposed. Could we go to the next slide, please?
Last one.
That's it.
Go back one then. All right, these are some of the everyday occurrences of types of equipment that currently that red, what is that one called? A sled? I can't remember. It looks like front loader to me, but that red piece of equipment is currently in the existing garage. The trailer, the snowmobile trailer, isn't always a snowmobile trailer, gray in the driveway. It disappeared since this application was submitted, but I expect to see it again. And then, of course, we have the Airstream. It, in fact, will create very undesirable changes and will be a detriment to my property specifically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excuse me, do you have a copy of what you read?
I can give, sure.
Okay.
It'd be very helpful.
Thank you.
Bring it back to the board. Anybody else want to talk to this project?
I do.
Come on up.
Want to close the mic? I'm a resident of Cloverwood, 1239, so it's around the block from where I live. And the size of this structure is my biggest concern. There is no structure freestanding in our neighborhood of this size and magnitude. And the fact that utility lines would have to be moved because it's two-story, that's a massive freestanding building that I think would be an eyesore for our area. I know that. That's my biggest objection. It's a huge building that's freestanding. It really should be an attached garage, in my opinion, to match the rest of the neighborhood. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you. Any other comments?
May I say one more thing?
No, I think we're good. All right. With that, if the applicant wants to address anything,
Certainly. And Brian will come up for this one. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, I just want to remind everybody that we're here about the variances. I appreciate what the neighbors are saying about the height of it, but it's code compliant. The square footage of the area, it's code compliant. So it's really difficult for the town to deny something that is code compliant in that respect. So,
thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
So the only thing I'd like to say, addressing a height issue for relocating back. The furthest we could back the structure up is approximately 5 feet, just to give distance from the overhead wires during weather. That, and then...
Is that
To interject real quick, that's regardless of the height, even if it was a single-story structure, and this is not a utility shed, that's why I'm calling it an accessory structure for a reason, but even if it was just 12 feet tall or 14 feet tall.
Actually 9 feet tall.
It
I can currently
cannot
touch...
go underneath the wires.
I can currently touch the cable from Spectrum right now. If I just go out in the middle of it where it's hanging, I can reach and touch the Spectrum cable coming across. And then the whole point of the 5-foot setback from the north property line is to push more of the structure into the existing hedgerow that had been overgrown for 20, 30 plus years. Which there are plans to, with other neighbors, to clean that all up, but obviously I'm not going to do that before the structure goes in place. So it's more to utilize 20 feet of space that was an overgrown hedgerow.
Can you talk to the storage? It's a 2-story accessory structure. Other than what has been written down, which, we talked about trailers and tractors and snowmobiles, and what is the second floor? Because you're not walking those up the stairs.
No. So my grandparents have passed away in the last 7 years, and I have a lot of their stuff. And my parents at the same time want to give me more stuff, and I'm like, yes, I want to keep that stuff, but I don't have room for it to store it right now. So that would just be, and the second floor is a pull-down stair. It's not a permanent, fixed, everyday use. It's just storage temporary, to take stuff up and store that stuff. Stuff that I'm not going up and down every day to utilize. It's not going to be a shovel or a lawnmower.
The current house, the residence, that doesn't have attic space, does it? Because it's got the barn roof?
It does not.
Okay.
I'd like to pose a question for the basement. We've heard that the neighbor across the street's in the floodway, not just a floodplain, but a floodway. That's the Mill Creek watershed. Do you have a constantly running sump pump? Is your basement wet? Is it conducive to storage down there? Or? I don't know the answer, sorry.
No. So there is some storage, but it's unfinished. It's the point of this structure is to get all the stuff that's currently outside inside, and like I said, I've got 3 snowmobiles in my snowmobile trailer, and yes, I do use that for helping out friends, moving their stuff if they need to, and it would be nice to get those out of the trailer into the structure, and then use that trailer for other things as I need.
I would like to add one thing because it was brought up. I did not draw the architectural plans. Someone else did that. And the plot plan was actually done by a surveying firm here in Webster, McMahon LaRue. So he's put in the investment to actually find the monumentation at each of his property corners. So this isn't just a guess of a plot plan, these are actual monumented corner points to know where his property boundaries are. So he's put significant investment into that instead of just old tape map surveys of measuring with dimension lines about where my structure would go. So he's definitely very serious about putting it in the right place, making sure it's compliant, and not having any issues.
This is also, it is not a final print either. That's the general idea. I haven't obviously finalized anything yet.
You're talking about this document?
Yes. So obviously, we have to hit the 20-foot mark, and I haven't done any math on that. I haven't had that conversation of, do we hit that 20-foot height requirement? So that'll definitely be met, and there will be some windows. There are definitely going to be 2 doors and a garage door.
So, out of curiosity, because we're talking about vehicular storage and then
Yep.
personal belongings up above,
Yep,
you have two rooms on the first floor.
I do.
What are the 2 rooms for then?
So I have to say that I have to put out here in front of everybody, like, the tools that I have personally.
No,
Okay.
it's garden tools or, that's fine, I'm
It's not
just,
just garden tools, but I have, I would like to have a little workbench.
A workshop?
And that stuff, so.
we're trying to get to the understanding of what this accessory
I'd like to
structure is
have-
truly
I'd like
going to
have
be
my
used
car
for.
in the garage currently,
Okay,
and I'd have to move things out of there to put my car in the garage currently. So
okay.
it's reworking things, but this, I think I can make this all happen with this structure.
Like I said, we're trying to understand
Okay,
the use and the purpose and
all right.
accessory structures. A lot of times, attic space, yes. 2 spaces inside, it starts to raise questions as to
Well,
why?
so
So-
it's, one space is somewhat finished with plywood floor. The other space is just stone floor.
Okay.
That's all.
So if you're given permission to,
One of us.
I hate when it does that. If you're given permission to build the accessory structure, currently, there's a boat, it looks like probably an old car in the back, plus the snowmobile trailer. The things that are perhaps eyesores to the neighbors, will those be able to be put inside the building, and so the outside of the property
So-
will be cleaned up?
The car would be in the attached garage.
Okay,
The boat, I don't know, it can fit in the accessory structure. It's designed that way so that the garage door is large enough to fit the boat in there in the winter.
okay.
And if I have to get my truck in there to work on it, then everything can fit the way it's designed right now.
So the boat, the tractor, the snowmobile trailer, all that can fit in,
The snowmobile trailer cannot,
cannot? Okay.
so.
Where would that be stored?
Snowmobile trailer?
Yeah, in
It may
the
be
driveway
my
or in the yard? or-
Yep, it may be in my driveway.
Year round?
Am I around? I'm here.
Year round?
Oh, you're right, it could be.
Yeah.
You made mention of not being able to be, unfortunately, I don't know the regulation. How far off the overhead lines does anybody here on the board know, or do you guys know?
For our genie,
Yeah,
it's 5 feet.
5
I have
feet
to maintain 5 feet.
from
That's
the,
a horizontal separation
Yep.
and a vertical separation.
yep, okay, thank you.
So anything attached on a utility pole is 10 feet. From utility pole to the house is 5 feet.
Gotcha, thank you.
And to point out, the utility poles in the back corner of the lot.
What's that?
The utility pole is in, sorry, the utility pole is in the back corner of the lot, so
Yep.
that would be the northwest corner. It's actually shown on that plot plan as the 2 power poles. So that's where, as Brian said, that would be 10-foot separation, and then horizontally from the overhead power lines, it's 5 feet as they go towards the house.
Right, the diagonal is 5
Diagonal.
feet.
Yes.
Right. And also pushing straight back, if I can go back 5 feet, if I'm 5 feet off the property line. If I'm 15, I can maybe go back 1 or 2 feet.
Was that statement clear to the board? Due to the diagonal of the lines, if it's 5 feet off that north property line, he can move it back further. If he moves it to be more compliant to the north property line, that puts him closer to the diagonal, so he can't move it back as far to maintain that buffer away from the power lines.
Yeah, I'm just doing some real basic calculations here, and it looks like you can move it 10 feet closer to the house, and if you move it 10 feet closer to the house, you could probably move it 10 feet back, just based on the dimensions that are given on the plan that are provided.
Understood. That's inclusive of the overhangs, because I think
That's inclusive of the diagonal overhead.
The one overhead.
No, sorry, the overhang of the buildings. I'm not sure if those are depicted on the 20
No,
by
he's
25.
referring to the one diagonal line that's OHP.
Yep.
Yeah, you're talking about the eaves of the
I'm saying
building.
eaves and the soffits of the
The
building.
eaves are, they look like they're about a foot, so.
Okay, so
Like I
it
was
should-
saying,
it should be
right,
good.
I mean, my little lines on a 8.5 by 11 aren't gonna be exact as it is anyway.
Right.
So it looks like we could probably move it 10 feet closer to the house and 10 feet back. Again, I don't have exact dimensions with me, but
Right.
just based on what I'm seeing, that looks like it is feasible.
And it would reduce one of the variances you'd need to ask for if you could set it 15 feet off the property line to the north.
That would be correct. I would just caution to make sure that we give enough, not to say what the predetermined decision is by the board, but if it's granted, we want to make sure to give a conservative estimate of what the dimensions would be, because we wouldn't want to come back to the board if we were off by a foot or 2 on the variance request. So just want to make sure we're into that on the compromise of shifting it. So what I'm getting at is where you're saying moving it 10 feet each direction, both west and south, we may want to go with 8 feet to give us 8 feet on each, so that if those overhangs or the soffits do end up in such a fashion that when the building department does the inspection and finds out that the whole building, we're at that, I'm just stating it from experience, then he would have to come back in
Yep,
for another one.
understood. I'd almost propose that you guys show us what you guys can do.
Or say he's got to shrink
So-
it down a little bit to offset that.
Right. The other question I have, 8 foot high, and Adam, to your point, the height is within code, the size within code, although I will point out that the floor plan that is provided is actually larger than 20 by 25, because your dimensions are from the center of the walls, not to the exterior of the walls. Small technicality, you said it's not completed, and you're still working on that, so I'm assuming it will be 20 by 25 if the variance is granted. But as the 8 foot high, and it's actually taller than 8 foot in the second floor to the eave. Is there a reason, are you amenable to something lower? And again, you're within code, so it's more of just a question.
That's all it was, is the original idea I had was, I was told that it was considered an accessory structure, so I said, okay, what does an accessory structure mean?
Sure.
Here's what it gives me. So,
What can I maximize?
exactly, as long as I'm spending money, I'm gonna spend money.
Yep.
Just for your dimensions, the house where the overhead power wires are attached is 23.3 feet deep. The
Okay.
proposed structure is 25 feet deep.
Yeah, I used the width of the structure at 20 feet
Okay.
is the scale that I was using.
Okay,
So-
I just know that I've physically put the driveway markers for the snowplow guys. I've put those right in different spots, and I know that the most, if we're 15 feet off that property line, the most I can go back is 3 feet.
Okay.
So that's, shifting that over, that definitely, we
Again, I'm just
gain as much.
I'm not saying what I did is accurate, I'm just, yeah, I
Just wanted
get
to
it.
clarify that,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yep.
Other questions from the board?
Excuse me, sorry.
So, Jess, can you pull up some of those photos? I don't know if you still have the PowerPoint open.
While those are coming up, I would like to ask for the clarification. Is the zoning board proposing for us to amend our application to minimize this, or maintain it as we presented it? Not that I'm asking what your vote are, it's just up in the air of what the discussions have been had.
Don't know yet.
I would like to ask the question of Brian of that, of shifting it to the, to lessen it from 5 feet to, say, 10 feet off the side, or from the north lot line. And then once again, if it does get shifted a few feet back, that would minimize, or not to say minimize, I don't want to make it seem like it's set in stone, but moving it so that it's not as close to the road and making it closer to compliance with being in the backyard, even though there is no backyard on this corner lot.
Just my rough sketches using the 5-foot side setback as my graph paper. I would think it could easily be 10 feet off of the north lot line and moved back 10 feet from the front line of the building and still clear with plenty of swing room, because I know power lines do drape and swing in the wind. But I think that would absolutely fit. I prefer to see 15 just because then it eliminates one variance. But I also don't want to cause an interference with the line, so I don't, without actually having the CAD tube in front of me, I'm not sure I can do better than my sketch.
So again, I'm trying to stick half of the structure into an existing hedgerow.
Correct.
That is, the hedgerow is going to be maintained, just not in the space where the structure is. So the idea is to minimize the footprint in the open space of the neighborhood. That was the reason for pushing that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I also, maybe I misheard you. It sounded like there's going to be some work being done to that hedgerow in the future at some point in time. Whether that means reducing it, whether that means maintaining it, and
Just
I can't tell you what to do with the hedgerow, so at the end of the day, our focus is the accessory structure. So I understand the reason why you did it, and I appreciate that. This middle photo of the items here, what is going to be stored inside the accessory structure?
Everything that's far away from the, where the photo is taken.
So zoom in, so you're saying everything to
So
the right of the airstream?
The stuff that's in and around the shed currently,
Okay,
so all the way over.
so it looks like a
There's
John Deere tractor maybe,
Yep.
and,
There's
Okay.
a
Snow
walk behind
blower
snow
and-
blower in case the snow.
Wheelbarrow,
Wheelbarrows.
fire pit,
So all of that will be
Concrete
out of
block.
sight, and
Correct.
that will be cleaned up.
Yep.
the Kubota will or will not be?
It may be.
Okay. Can we get a definitive? Yes or no?
I think it's possible, I think what he's saying is it's possible to park it in there, but there might be times where he stores it on the driveway, just like he's doing here.
This actually was just a temporary thing while the drainage was getting installed and cleaned up. Since this picture, the drainage was actually finished on Saturday with grass seed and straw. So it is waiting on grass to grow.
Okay.
So yes, that could be that's a half-second picture right there. That's,
Understood, right? A picture is taken in time.
it's not a day-to-day
Yeah, absolutely.
picture.
I'm trying to get a sense of how much of this is going to get cleaned up.
Yep.
Because if we decide to move forward, or however we decide to move forward, it's possible restrictions or highly likely restrictions will be placed. So, we want to just, again, I want to understand what can and what can't and what your intent was.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You're quiet.
I agree with both you and the chairman that based on the intricate and well-paid-for survey shows that there's more room to move that shed both southerly and westerly, at least based on the drawing. And doing the same exercise that both you and, that both of you did, I did as well, and based on that, it looks like there is room. And once again, we're not in the position to tell people what to do. If they want to ask for multiple variances, I think the applicant can make it easier on themselves to eliminate at least one variance, and then possibly be an even better neighbor and make the building more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah,
But once again, the plans do not show either of those conditions
right.
right now. So my own personal opinion is, if they really want to, I'd like to see them respond to not only our concerns about the setback, but their neighbor's concern about the physical appearance of it. Even though I know they're in code, that's kind of I'm a nice guy, I'm doing it. I know we can't force them to add any type of architectural elements to make it look less than a huge shed. I mean, I'm assuming it's not going to be T111 on the outside of it, just, stained or something like that. Maybe it is. And if it would, they'd be well within the right to do that because it's not illegal. But at least as far as the drawings go, I believe there's room, and not living there, he might be right. They could have wild swings that we're unaware of. That's not shown, illustrated well on the drawing.
Right, it's a line.
Right, it's a 2D representative of a real situation. Like I said, I'd like to see if they can move it, unless they're telling us, if we offer the ability to come back and show us that, great. If they want to vote now, then I say we let them, whatever the applicant wants to do, we can do. I feel a lot more comfortable seeing if some of those issues were addressed, rather than approve it subject to.
Yeah, I know, I agree with everything that you just said, Chris, so I appreciate that. Do you guys understand that?
Yeah, so I was just going to give an analogy out of this. If we could go back to the plot plan, whoever's running the computer, thank you. So I'd point to those overhead lines like a jump rope. So the widest part is going to be the middle if the wind is swinging it. So if we swing it, and as Brian said, it's 9 feet from the ground, and those power poles are usually 25 to 35 feet tall. So therefore, you have from the very top, 35 feet, I'll call it 25 feet since it's residential. Then you've got power lines, then you've got telecommunications, then you've got the phone lines. So on this one, he's saying spectrum, which is going to be telecommunications, so that's going to be your middle tier, not the bottom tier of that rental pole, so we'll call it 6 feet down. So now you're from 25 to 19 feet, you're 9 feet off the ground for the lowest, or the telecom one, so that thing might be sagging about 6 feet. So therefore, when the wind whips it like a jump rope, you're going to have, that 6-foot dip is going to go sideways, and then add 5 feet onto that. So we're going to say that from this line in the middle point, it can go diagonally to the northeast 11 feet. Is that a fair enough analogy to explain what happens with the
And
wires?
if you were
in this
to
thing?
offset a line 11 feet to
Right.
the northeast of that,
Yep.
that would be where you'd want to place the corner of that shed.
Correct, that's exactly what I was going to say, is the southwest corner of the shed, that would be the closest we would go.
And-
So
and
if
that-
we
that is-
offset that 11 feet,
That's reasonable. I'm just saying,
I think that brings it up.
if the applicant so desires, they can make it easier on themselves by eliminating one of the variances they're asking for, which makes it,
Agreed.
you know, a little, not easier on us, but you're asking for less relief.
Correct.
Which makes it
Yep,
a little
understand your
easier
logic.
to- an application to
Yep.
review and approve. That's
Yep.
all I'm saying.
Yep,
So
so,
obviously, you could do whatever you feel is in your best interest.
agreed. Understood on that one. So I don't have an architect's scale as accurate as Mr. Schwartz is.
Oh, mine's just on a piece of paper. No accuracy
That's
here.
all I'm trying to do too. So I do estimate that it could be moved back about 8 feet, back to the west,
Well, let
and
me-
to the south.
Let me ask a question.
Yes,
And it's entirely up to you. I mean, the board can arbitrarily guess based on our very inaccurate
yep,
rough estimates. Or would you perhaps, I guess there's two things I'd like to see. If you were to table this to the next meeting and go back and actually do real measurements as opposed to our,
Yep.
blind dart, how far back could the building be if you maintain the 5-foot side setback?
yep.
And then if I maintain a 15-foot side setback, how far back could it be?
Okay.
And then I know someplace within that window, it's not going to get wrapped up in the utility wires, but still be less of an imposition on the code and less of an imposition on the neighbors.
Okay, I can speak with that after that. I do have to voice out the frustration. He was here last month, and due to the town's failure to publicly notice it, he's already lost 1 month of time. I'm not saying that to try and sway it, it's just, I want to make sure to voice his frustration that he has time and money invested in this, and now he's going to possibly lose a month. I just want to point that out, because I don't have all the tools here to measure all that out on this one. But I'll pose it to Brian to see if he wants to hold off to get that more accurate, to see how far we can get it.
So,
So meaning
I
you
have-
don't get a decision tonight, because if
That's
they
okay.
vote and you say no, you're done.
I'm okay with that. As long as, what are you looking for as far as measurements? Who can provide the measurements to you that you'll accept?
Well, my window is because I can't give you an accurate measurement as to where it now becomes a danger to you and your family.
Do I need to go back to McMahon LaRue and have that drawn, that drawn to scale in certain
I mean,
places?
it does-
or-
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
you would be comfortable with, say, myself depicting them on this with the dimension
Yeah.
line.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
You're a PE, I'm assuming that you can do that math without,
Yep, not only do the math, I can also depict it on the.
yeah.
Well, no, I mean, but that's what we're really
Yeah,
looking for.
understood.
To see, the application you have in it right now, to see how much you can get away from the north property line,
Yep,
and how far, if you
How
can
far
get it back
back to the west.
to the west.
Yeah, yep.
That's all we're at to see,
Yep.
and then if he feels it's something that he can live with, submit it and say, here's where it is.
Yep.
Excuse me, But also, once again, excuse me, just so we can see and everyone is aware of it, because I agree with you. If you say it's 6 feet, you basically want to be 11 feet, like we said before, 11 feet off, and then you move that where you think it works.
Yep.
And then, we'll be in, I think, a much better position to feel comfortable bringing it to a vote, unless, like I said, he wants to do that this evening.
Yeah. So, ask for it to be
On this survey, we'll have the north setback at 5 feet and as far back as we can go.
Yep.
And then we'll bring it right up to the 15-foot setback.
As far back
And
as
then how
we
far
can.
back
as we can go.
Yep.
And we'll show it
And
right
we'll
on
show
the-
lines with the offset to the
Yes.
overhead lines depicting why we picked those two places.
That would be
Yes.
phenomenal.
That would be really good to help us make an informed decision, and I think it's going to be lessen the amount of variance you're asking for.
So I think on behalf of my friend and the applicant, he's asking the board to table this until next month, pending this additional information to be
Thank you.
provided.
Thank you.
Counsel, did I say that okay?
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
I'm not as quite familiar, or, yeah.
The public comment is closed at this point.
So when we come back next month.
You'll have an opportunity to speak again.
To speak again and to talk about other contingencies on the property, like screening, or whether the garage door is going to open onto Willow.
No. All those,
Those are matters that would typically go before the planning board, but those are matters that would go before the planning board, but those issues, given the size of the structure, it's not required to go before the planning board. For the zoning board is going to consider just the setbacks that have been discussed.
Okay, so then this goes to the planning board.
No, it will not go to the planning board because the overall size of the structure doesn't require it to.
Even though it would create a significant change to the neighborhood.
Correct. Those criteria are strictly surrounding the setback variances that are being sought.
Okay, so, like, let me just ask this question, but not this one. Last time I was here, there was a 10-foot fence that you all were having a lot of conversation about how it blocked views and that there would have to be screening put up onto the fence so that, people were looking at this. Can we put those types of requirements in terms of screening? Because 20 feet is twice 10 feet, and 20 feet this way. They said, you're talking about, I realize there's money invested, but I have 32 years of investment in my property, and that needs to be taken into account. This will definitely decrease the sidewalk appeal of my house, and that is significant. There are other places on the property that could be.
Ma'am, there will be a public hearing next meeting in which you can voice those concerns again for the board.
Okay,
Yes.
that's-
Okay.
There will be a public hearing?
Yes.
You'll have an opportunity to speak then too.
I don't have anything else to add, just thank the
May the
board
matter
for all
is
your
tabled.
discussion.
Do we have to vote on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to table 671 Willow Lane accessory structure till the next board meeting.
Second?
Second.
All those in, go ahead. Do you want to call it out, or
No, that's fine.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask one more question?
No, it's closed.
Well, when I visited the property, I did not look at swinging power lines, I was looking at the ground, and when you come up with those two footprints, if you could let Josh know and stick some of the flags in the ground, and then when I come back, then I can actually see it.
So you're saying sticks in the ground of where the proposed would be so that it's a visual
Yeah, like-
aid to tell you where
If
it's
he's
going
able
to
to
be?
do that,
If it's possible, if it's not,
Yep,
I
it
travel
just
with
makes
the
it
tape
easier.
yep,
I mean,
understood.
it's different looking at it on plan than it is in the space itself.
I'll see how many stakes he has. We might do different colors to show the two different locations so
Yeah,
that
and
you can
even
see
just-
what the difference is.
Or
between
just
the
mark,
two.
if you, if
Kitty
you would
corners
say,
even.
just like I said, the back corner of each.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, all right, now I'm done.
Next meeting is June 11th.
Okay.
So,
Do you think you'll be able to get that material in at least a week ahead of time?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And actually, do you want to more than a weekend ahead of time?
That'd be great.
If you can do
The
it.
more
We can
time
do that.
Thank you,
is
Adam.
better.
All right, thank you all for the time and the discussion.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next matter,
No idea.
when we get
All right. Ready?
ready.
1246 Stafford Crescent Garage Addition. Located at 1246 Stafford Crescent, applicant Bob Peters is requesting area variances to allow a front and side setback less than what is required associated with the construction of a 245-square-foot third bay extension to an existing two-car garage on a .41 acre parcel having SBL number 065.13-3-60, located in an R3 single-family residential district under section 350-12 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, good. I'm here to acquire a couple variances. Build a 245-square-foot addition to our two-bay garage to allow us a little more room to park some cars inside instead of outside. We need two variances. We need one on the west side. It's a 15-foot variance there. We need to be 9 foot closer. And then, in order to get the depth in the back, we need to come towards the road, which is a variance of 50 foot. We're going to be in 4 feet into that, which is 46 feet from that front setback. And other than that, it's, I don't know if you got pictures there, but I did hand in pictures of what it's going to look like. It sets right into the house itself. It's a beautiful rendition. I have an architect that's put it together for me. There were a couple things that I had to deal with Monroe County Water Authority. There's a water main going right up through there. So I called them and I settled that out, and I got them to put together a license for me to build over on into their easement area, as long as I maintain. So I have that license for that side of it. So really all I'm looking for is the variance from the road, which is a 4 foot, and then on the west side, I'm looking to be closer to that lot line. I can't go back any further because we have the house is set up where the kitchen's there and the windows are there, so I can't go back to bring it back. But I need that 26 feet to be able to have the garage door go up, because I'm going to have a 2-car lift in there to store some of my older cars.
So, one question I have, so the Water Authority indicates that the addition's footer may not extend into the easement area. However, on this plan, if I'm reading it correctly, the easement is 10 feet off your property line, and it looks like you're building within 9 feet. So you're going to be within, and the footers are going to be within the easement, and that contradicts what the email indicates.
Yeah, I think, not quite sure exactly the footage there. I wanted to get something from them, just in case it did build onto it. And what they were concerned about is the overhang on the building. They said the overhang may be over the line, even though the footer is there, but my overhang is going to go over.
So that 9 foot is the overhang distance or the footer?
No,
distance?
9 foot is the footer. So there's going to be a 12-inch overhang into their property there, their easement. So I wanted to get that license from them to make sure everything was fine.
The email reads, Bob, that is correct. The addition's footer may not extend into the easement area. The roof overhang may extend into the easement area. So what is presented to us right now does not comply with the Water Authority.
Yeah, you're right. That has been overcome. I've got another email that I can give to you from them with the license and everything that I have, giving me permission to go on to their easement.
So, I mean, for me, without having that, I wouldn't move forward with it.
Would the license that I've got here that explains that work? Their license to me from the Monroe County Water Authority, I have it here, that explains how I can go on to it.
that would be helpful.
Would be
I mean,
helpful.
I haven't had a chance to review that, so.
If you'd like a copy of that, I can give that to you.
Please.
Yeah, but this is showing us a 10-foot width easement. Well, he's got 18 feet. Minus 13.5 is 5 foot, 5.5. I really put a miss. Okay. That's a legitimate question.
I believe the additional footage is stated in there.
So talk to me, while we review that. I was at your property a couple hours ago, took a walk around. I think you started to, and maybe you said it, the reason the garage cannot, or the addition cannot be pushed back the 4 feet is why again?
Well, it's a personal preference more than anything. We have a patio back there. We have kitchen windows that kind of stick out. We'd have to revamp the whole house structure and everything, and it's not feasible financially to do that.
Well, all that's on the two-story house
Yeah.
portion, not on the garage, so the addition of the garage would actually not affect any of that. You'd have, call it a 12-foot courtyard, if you will, in that particular area. So I don't know if it would require any reconfiguration of the main house.
Well, it's just not going to work out to take it back. If I have to go backwards, I'm not going to do it. We're not going to take the structure of the house and upset it to have that garage stick back. It's just not feasible.
Okay?
I have a picture, I don't know if you have the picture in there, I have a drawing of what it looks like from the architect, from the road.
This one?
Yes, yes. And I went around to quite a few of the neighbors, not just the side neighbors, but 8 neighbors, and explained to them what we were doing, and they were all 100% for it.
Mr. Peters, do you have a copy of the license agreement application that you submitted to the Water Authority?
All signed, you mean, by everybody?
The application that you would have submitted just detailing the proposed encroachment?
I don't think I have that. I worked with Todd Ferguson at Monroe County Water Authority, and he's the one who put these papers together. One of the things that we found out when I went to the Water Authority, because I knew the main was there, is that they did not have a recorded easement with you guys, with Webster. It was never recorded when they put the main through. So I brought that up, and they found that, so I had to sign a paper about the easement. So now there's a legal easement there. And then when I got a little leery about encroaching onto the side, or into their easement, that's when we talked about a license. And they came over and looked at it, and they said, no problem. And then I got the license that you see there.
Yeah, and I did drive around your neighborhood as well, and, you know, there's a couple with 3-car garages and the side easements. This would be the first one that is trying to move forward beyond the
Yeah.
50-foot setback.
Yeah.
questions from the board? Having the application.
Yeah, so, Mr. Peters, the reason why I was asking if you had a copy of the application, because obviously we have the email in which the Water Authority indicated that the footers could not encroach on the easement. And I do see the license agreement, and it does permit 1.5 foot encroachment, but it doesn't distinguish between the footers and the overhang.
Okay.
And that's why I was asking to see what you submitted
Yeah.
as part of this
Right,
license
right,
agreement.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the footers. And then I don't have the finalized print yet. I did this 10 years ago. I had the print all drawn up, and then I decided not to do it. And now I decided to bring it back, and so I'm having it redrawn again, and it's not finalized yet, but I have had discussion with the architect, and he's done some prints for us here. And I have to have at least, I'm going to go out 9 feet from my original structure. That's what I need to be able to do what I'm doing. So I'm
Is that
only
the edge of the footers, or is that the?
I'm going 9 foot from the footer that's currently there, 9 foot west.
Okay.
I had it staked, but I took the stakes up. But, so that's what I'm going. But then there's an overhang of, I think it's 14 inches on the eaves, so that would be 10 feet. So that would go on to the easement from the Water Authority. That's why I did the license with them.
So the 9 foot includes the footers, correct?
Yeah,
And then you have an additional 14 inches for the overhang?
Yep.
So that would exceed the 1.5 foot that's permitted under the license agreement then?
That's not typically how a building is constructed. Your overhang itself would not, your overhang may extend beyond what the footers are. Your footers are probably going to be, I guess, 24 inches wide, so 12 inches beyond the 9 foot. That would put you at, if it's 9 foot, you'd be at, if the building was 9 foot, your footer would extend another foot beyond that, and your overhang isn't beyond the footer, your overhang is off the wall
Okay.
itself, so.
So it's still within the 1.5 foot of the easement?
It could be, right, without having actual documents and actual drawings, I can't determine that, but it could be.
I'm going to stay in my lane and not get into the other.
That's fine.
And just be mindful of the 1.5 foot that's.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, and I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, well, without having, the drawings we have, or at least that I have, don't have dimensions for the overhangs. They don't have dimensions for the footers. There's a lot of information here that I don't have, that I personally would not feel comfortable making a judgment on. And for me, I definitely want to we have the license agreement, which is dated the 12th. I have an email that's contradicts the licensing agreement that was before, that was sent before the licensing agreement. Me personally, I want that all cleared up before.
so what are you looking for? Are you looking for the verbiage in the license agreement from the Water Authority?
So you sent an application into the Water Authority, correct?
This wasn't really an application, it was just our conversations together. They were very lenient, very considerate, and they even said if you wanted to go more than 1.5 foot, they would come back and rewrite it. They were very,
If they can rewrite it for you, stating specifically that the footer can extend into that easement, whatever it needs to be, and you were to resubmit that, I think is what, I'm not trying to speak for you, Mike. but-
No, if we can, was there an email after, was it April?
I do have
1st?
emails, yeah.
So if there's an email after April 1 that corresponds more closely to the licensing agreement that indicates that the footer, the overhang, is able to extend 1.5 feet beyond the edge of the easement, that would help me tremendously.
Yeah, I do have that.
If you don't have that, if you can get
Yeah.
that would also help me tremendously. So that's the side easement part. We also have the front easement. I don't know if anybody has questions on the front easement.
Easement or setback?
Sorry, setback. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I think he's trying to keep the area behind his house with the windows the way they are, and you know, it's just the way the house is laid out now, and I don't think it's a major issue as far as the front setback variance.
Well, and I think it gives some dimension.
Right.
We typically don't like a flat wall all the way across, because it just, breaking it up tends to make it look less impactful.
And the roof line will do that too, the new roof line with the addition as well. So I don't have any issue with the front setback variance.
Okay.
Did we do the public hearing yet?
We did not open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against this application? No? Bring it back to the board. I'm proposing that with your approval, I propose that we table this until we get the additional information, and we can meet again, is it June 11th, to discuss the matter with the additional information.
Okay, so I can get that and send it in to Catherine?
Yep.
Be all set. Yeah. All right, that's fine.
Are you good with that?
Well, no, but I'll do whatever, I want to get
Fair enough.
Well, the problem I have, and you know how it is, I have builders set up at certain dates, and nowadays with contractors, if I miss the threshold, I may not get it going.
Understood.
So-
The option is,
so-
we can vote on it, but
You
I'm
know,
not
so
going
it's
to
good,
promise what anybody is.
it's good to set
gonna
that up. Would it be possible if you approved it, I can just send this information to you tomorrow, the email, and you have it? So I don't have to wait 30 days and another 30 days, and I don't even know if I can get the contractor now that I got to set it back another 30 days.
I can tell you, I'm not personally comfortable with it. I don't know.
We have in the past, depending on the circumstance, but, so it would be approved contingent upon receiving this letter with this
Acceptable letter.
dimension.
More importantly, are
But-
we in any type of violation of not respecting Monroe County Water Authority, or is it the applicant's duty to make sure he's in compliance with Monroe County Water Authority easement?
That's the applicant's responsibility, but still not a road that the town would want to go
No,
down.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, we could, but why set ourselves up for any potential issues down the road is what I'm saying.
And that's my fear, is because it's not like I'm waiting on something that's under town control, it's another entity that I have no feeling for the water authority, knowing what they would or wouldn't rule otherwise.
I believe
You know?
he's going to get it. It's just a matter of timing. But once again, my feeling personally, I don't have an issue with it, but I think from a legal standpoint, it's not in our best interest to do it subject to.
So I'm suggesting that we table it until June 11th at this point. I'm going to make a motion to table 1246 Stafford Crescent Garage Addition until next board meeting and on June 11th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Thank you. See you on June 11th.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Okay. 663 Finchingfield Lane Shed, located at 663 Finchingfield Lane. Applicant Jeremy Mathias is requesting an area variance to allow the construction of an 8 by 12-foot storage shed placed in a wooded area beyond the boundary of the line created by the outer wall of the side of the house on a .38 acre parcel having SBL number 065.13-1-87, located in an R3 single-family residential district under section 350-12 and 350-36 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Good evening, Jeremy Mathias here. I own the home at 663 Finchingfield Lane. As the agenda indicates, I would like to build a shed on my property. Our property, you can see from the survey, is a rather unique shape. The house is angled, so the backyard is rather small. We want to be able to put our cars in the garage. We have 2 children who have a bunch of stuff. I expect the amount of stuff to increase. So I think we could really benefit from the use of the storage shed. I'd like to maximize the backyard area for my children to play. We have a play set back there right now. There's not a lot of space that could accommodate a shed back there. If I did put one back there, it would allow for very minimal kind of play area. So because of that, I was looking outside of the outer walls of the house. As indicated on the agenda, there is a wooded area with kind of just the right size for this size of shed. Requires an area variance because it's not directly behind the house. So that's the basis for the application. I did talk to most of my neighbors around the area, and everyone I talked to is okay with it. So I welcome whatever questions the board or anyone has.
So I drove by earlier today. Is it going in the woods? Is it, I wasn't, based on this and what's out there, I wasn't really sure physically where it's going.
So there were stakes in the ground. It's kind of, let's see, Josh, are you able to pull up the pictures that I believe I included with the submission?
I think the board members have hard copies. I don't
Yes.
have them.
We do.
Okay. So if you see I believe the play set is in the picture, and then the woods essentially creates a line. There's a fence along that. It's like a metal kind of almost chicken wire type fence to keep our small dog in the backyard. It would be right along that fence. So it's not well into the woods, it's right on the border of the woods.
So on the edge of the woods, if you will.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. That's what I wasn't able to determine when I was out there.
Sure.
So it's kind of in the corner of where this photo is, kind of in the corner where that fence is.
I'm sorry, I don't know what photo you're looking at.
It's the one with the chimney looking toward the playset.
Okay. And you said, the question was, it's
There's
kind of in the
there's that
corner?
fence that goes from the house to the woods and then back down along the wood.
Correct.
The shed would be, at least when I was looking at it, I thought the shed would be close to the corner of that fence.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, and we do have a couple of letters of support
Yep.
from
Nancy and Joe.
662, which is across the street looking at it, and 668, which is also the house that will be most directly looking at it, aside from the neighbor immediately next door, but I think maybe the tree row will
And 666
shield it.
too.
Okay.
And then I don't know the number, the house number of the property abutting just to the east, who shares that boundary line. His name is Matt Soike. He intended to send me an email before my submission, but I didn't receive the email until after the submission. He did end up sending me a similar email.
Do you have that email?
I didn't print out copies of it.
You're in possession of it, whether it's digitally or, can you send that over to Josh as well?
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
No. Is open to the public? Anybody want to speak for or against the project? All right. Bring it back to the board. Any additional questions or comments?
Good.
No?
No.
I'm gonna move a bunch of stuff here so I can get to my papers, so I can do the seeker. I'd like to make a motion for a type 2 action under seeker pursuant to NYCRR section 617.5 of the Environmental Code.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do a motion for,
We
Do we have
need to run
the
through
findings
findings.
first?
sorry, the findings, Joe?
I'll take care of it, I'll do it. Don't believe the applicant, or the application presents any type of undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood as it is. Based on the shape of the lot and the way he needs to use the lot, I don't think there's any real other remedy to allow his kids to play and for the shed location. I don't think the variance requested is significant, and although it's self-created because he wants to keep the backyard for the kids to play in, I don't believe it's a significant request to ask.
Okay.
I guess I would add, just to make sure that it's noted in the minutes, that it's not even a corner lot, it's a curved corner lot. So most of the usable space of the lot is actually the north side yard. So the backyard is minuscule, and I don't know that it actually would fit well in the backyard and meet code.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. With that, I'd like to make a motion for 663 Finchfield Lane Shed. Applicant Jeremy Matthias is requesting an area variance to allow the construction of an 8x12 storage shed placed in a wooded area beyond the boundary line created by the outer wall of the side of the house on a 0.38 acre parcel having SBL number 065.13-1-87 located in R3 Single Family Residential District under section 350-12 and 350-36 of the town, code of the town of Webster.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Short,
Aye.
Mrs. Volo,
Aye.
Mr. Leibner,
Aye.
Mr. Santola,
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato.
Aye.
Thank you. You have your variance. You have one year to complete the project and obtain all necessary building permits.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Thank you.
All set for the next one?
Yep.
941 Gravel Road, special use permit / major home occupation review, located at 941 Gravel Road. The Town of Webster Zoning Board of Appeals is requesting a review of the special use permit and approval conditions to conduct a major home occupation associated with the landscaping and excavation business on a 2.09 acre parcel having SBL number 078.16-1-1.1, located in an R3 Single Family Residential District under section 350-103F of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Hi, my name's Kevin Fior. I'm good friends with Bill and Timmy, and I'm here assisting them this evening. Good evening, folks.
How's it going?
Good. Great. Dandy.
So,
Would you like me to give you like a brief history of the property and the special use permit and the length of time?
I
As an
think that
overview?
the code enforcement officer has a presentation prepared and can address the
Yep.
history of the property, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so
Then I would suggest that the code enforcement officer give the presentation, and then you have an opportunity to respond.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and those in attendance. My name is Jim Montgomery. I am the code compliance coordinator for the town, and we're going to be going over a little bit of the violations that have been on the property that strictly involve the special use permit that was granted by this board years ago. Those violations include 350-44C parking of commercial vehicles, 350-44D parking of commercial vehicles, 201-3B dumping, 269-24 operation outside of special use permit limitations, and 350-37A2G display of goods and materials. To start, I want you to look at the picture on the left side of the screen. This is a violation of 350-44C, parking of commercial vehicles. No commercial vehicle having the overall length in excess of 21 feet or any semi-tractor trailer or semi-trailer of any length shall be parked on any public or private property in the residential district unless temporarily in connection with the permitted commercial or construction service sale or delivery of such property. This next slide shows I believe to be a F-250 attached to a commercial trailer, which is a violation of 350-44D, parking of commercial vehicles. A commercial vehicle which is not a semi-tractor trailer or semi-trailer or construction vehicle having any overall length of 21 feet or less may be parked outside of unproper property in a residential district subject to the following conditions. Only one such vehicle may be parked on a lot containing the dwelling of the resident vehicle owner or operator. Such vehicle shall be parked on the driveway or in the garage. This vehicle is over 21 feet. Next, we're going to go over dumping. As you can see on the image to the right, there's an active dump truck dumping onto the property. Where no building permit has been issued, no dumping for purposes of filling or establishing grade shall be done unless the owner of the property to be filled shall have been issued a permit therefore by the town board as herein provided. So this is going over the special use permit that was granted again by this board. These are the conditions that were provided in 2011. I can go over each one of them. Applicant must obtain all necessary government permits, including town board permit. Number 2 is completion of the construction must occur prior to June 12, 2012. The applicant must return before the zoning board in 6 months to show compliance of conditions. Number 4, the applicant must meet the requirements of 225-37A2, which should be noted that this code section has been changed in the recent years. Will be met by the applicant to eliminate outside storage or parking of commercial vehicles, which includes the Bobcat and chipper, with the construction of the barn. 2 employees who are not residing on the premises, which is not normally permitted. Those 2 employees will be allowed on the condition that they do not actually work on the premises, but just pick up vehicles. Number 6 says that full-time employees will not perform maintenance of equipment on the premises. Number 7, the applicant will comply with all of 225-37A2, again, which that town code has changed, the town code. Planning board approval is required. So now we're going to go over the violations that I have observed on the property. This is a violation of condition number 4, which states the applicant must meet the requirements of 225-37A2 and A and G will be met. Applicant, it says that specifically the Bobcat cannot be on the premises, nor can other commercial equipment. So on the right, you can see clearly there's a Bobcat on the property, and on the left, you can see a backhoe and a dump truck. This next is a video showing 2 employees or 2 people who are actively shoveling materials into a truck. You can play that video. They actively shovel into the truck for the next minute and a half. I don't think we need to go.
That is a commercial vehicle?
Excuse me?
It's a commercial...
It is a commercial vehicle, yes.
Thank you.
No, your tractors.
350-37A2 is display of goods and materials. This is not, this is a general condition, not a specific condition that the board set, but this is a general condition in our town code. It says there shall be no exterior display or storage of goods, materials, and equipment and inventory. As you can see clearly, there are all of those in the pictures provided. Again, going further in, you can see these materials shown in the picture I've circled in red. And then the equipment shown, and then the materials as well. There's bags of concrete and then a large pile of gravel on the right. And I, again, just want to everyone who's in attendance today and those who are watching and the board to know that this board has the power to revocate this special use permit, and by reading the 2 paragraphs, it goes into details that that is the power that this board has.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, can I ask a question now?
Sorry, what was that?
Could I ask a question?
You can ask a question, sure.
Which newspaper was the notice published in 10 days prior? I'm just
The
curious.
Webster
I didn't see
Herald.
it. Webster Herald?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so can I address the complaints?
Please.
Okay. The 2 main complaints, and Jim can tell me if I'm incorrect, is 1, the outside storage of equipment, which is supposed to be undercover.
Are you asking a question?
Yes,
Yes, the materials and equipment are both supposed to be
undercover.
within a building.
Right, okay, okay. So, whenever, Tim has addressed, every time there was a complaint, he addressed it. He's never been to court because he refused to put his equipment undercover or remove any stored materials.
So are you
Yeah,
saying that
correct.
we need to bring that to Tim? I mean, Tim should be just
No,
complying with this without us
I have
bringing
one
this.
question, because when the permit was granted for us, storage of equipment is to be done at night. This is during the day. I mean, all my equipment's been stored in the barn at night. I mean, just
That's not
because
part of the, from what I recall reading, that's not what the conditions of it was, to store it in the barn at night. It was to be stored in the barn.
So when I come back to eat lunch or something, it needs to be parked in the barn, I didn't realize that. That's my bad. I apologize about that.
So the only point that I'm making is that all of the citations or complaints have to do with either dirt, stone, or his equipment not being in a building.
Well, I think I saw pictures of concrete and mortar and
The
piping and other components as well.
The
so-
concrete bags I bought, set there, because I was redoing the fence. I do have a permit for it, but I was told that the one neighbor was gonna put up another fence, a 10-foot fence. So I stopped progress of reinstalling the fence. So that's what the concrete was there for.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a residence.
Yep.
Okay, so if he has 10 bags of concrete, it doesn't automatically dictate that it's for his business. It could be for his residential use, okay? I'm not making a claim one way or the other. I don't reside there, okay? But my point is that every time he's been cited, he's been more than cooperative and immediately addressed the situation. Which is why he's never ended up in court. Am I?
That's incorrect. He has been in court.
No, you haven't. You adjourned everything.
You still were in court. You showed up to court. You were issued an appearance ticket.
Okay, he's been issued an appearance ticket, and when he went to court, it was adjourned.
It was adjourned, yes.
It was adjourned, okay.
The story.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected.
Also with the stone, Jim, I thought you said stone was fine on the property.
I said that if you were going to be using it immediately to redo your area, your impervious surface, then it was fine. But it's been sitting there for years.
Okay. You said the stone was fine, so that's fine. It's being used now. for grading the property line.
When was it being used?
I got trees coming down. We're meeting Mr. Stevens' request to 2-to-1 slope for the property line.
So is it being used now, or is it going
Trees
to
are
be
coming down
used?
tomorrow. So once they're down, yes.
It's been too wet. We haven't had good weather, as everybody knows. It's been too wet. You can't get back there unless you're gonna make a mess.
Okay. Yep. Other questions and comments from the board? With that, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Anybody want to speak for or against this property?
I can speak for.
Okay. Please state your name and your address.
Yes. Sandra Brazoza, 937 Gravel Road. So we're the neighbors right next door. We have no issues.
Okay, thank you. 93, you said 93.7? Okay, yep. Thank you.
We'll see support. Joe Beeler, Brigadier or Major General in the National Guard, live right next door. No issues, they had not a problem at all with that property. No noise issues, don't see any curbside issues of appeal. I support them continuing what they're doing. They're
What
making an
address?
honest living. Thanks.
What address?
955 Gravel Road, right on the property there.
Okay. You'll get your turn.
Jonathan Bernard, 951 Gravel Road. In the images that were taken of Mr. Bester's backyard, I'm the greenhouse that you can see physically in the backyard there. So I have direct line of sight in that area. As far as my concerns, Tim has been good about taking care of the general area. I have been there since 2013 and have had no issue with him working back there. His time that he spent caring for that yard, he's done what he can, obviously, to maintain his business and also maintain the view that we have of his property, even going so far as to invest in building the property line, the berm that's on our side, obviously putting in the arborvitae's in there in order to help with the visibility on that side. I believe that he's done his part to work well as a good neighbor in this one, and I'm in support of him.
Thank you.
My name is John Barry. I live at 949 Gravel Road. I've been a resident in Webster for 39-plus years. And I have known the Besters for 20-plus years as my neighbor. I saw them when they moved in, before they had kids. I recognized that he was a young married couple. They were a young married couple. Very hardworking. I would see him leave in the morning and not get back until dark. Round the clock, 7 days a week. I know he's had a few different opportunities to work in other fields. I happened to bring him to my place of employment to try to get a job when he was in between jobs. I know he worked for Mr. Fior. And I know he struggled for a good many years as a self-employed businessman. And I'm happy to see that he has improved his business. And I don't find a problem with him having a business. And I look right at his yard. I look at his barn. It's a well-kept piece of property. He has, as Jonathan said, put berms with arborvitae's up to hide some of the businesses that he has. I know he's complied with other town issues by building a shed behind his barn at a pretty good cost of money. And I can tell you from the years that I've known him, if there's anything that I asked him to do, he would do it. He plows our road. Sometimes we don't even see a contract. We pay him. He doesn't even come looking for the money. We pay him as he does our driveways and our private road. I've noticed through the years of being his neighbor that he's been associated with Canine Orphans as a foster home, taking dogs in, two of which are now his personal dogs. I know that he's had a relative move in with him that he's taken care of. And I know there's people that have come here tonight to support him are doing that because he's been good to them as a neighbor and has helped them as well as he's helped me. So I couldn't ask for a better neighbor. I'm 73 years old, I've had a lot of neighbors, and I would say that this is probably one of the best neighbors I've had, and a nice family.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Lalonde, and this is my husband, Nathan Kaur. We live at 541 Galbrow Circle. So unfortunately, we've had a different experience. We are on the opposite side of the property as the greenhouse in the back. So I've included some photos. We moved in what, September of 2021. So I've included some photos throughout the years. I don't know if you can zoom in on that photo. But it shows 2 recreational trailers, a dump truck, another dump truck to the side with it to it's fed up, and then there's also a truck in the back, and that was stored during winter time behind our fence. So the problem for us used to only really be in the winter time as far as being able to physically see it. So I included another photo. So that's what it used to look like in the summertime. That is in August of 2023. So there were some trees that would fill in, and unfortunately that tree coverage has changed. If you go to the next photo. So that is in November of 2023. So a lot of the trees were cleared, and unfortunately there were 3 different trailers or 4 different trailers that were stored in that big open area. And then you can see the dump truck sitting out there as well. So, and to my knowledge, I believe the neighbor was notified that they couldn't store recreational vehicles back in October by Jim. I don't know if you can confirm that that is correct.
I can't confirm the date, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's in November. If you go to the next picture, that's later in November, showing 3 different trucks parked back there. If you zoom in, you can also see the trailer with the equipment on it. If you go to the next picture, this is in December. The recreational trailers are still there. You can see more equipment outside. I will note, I'm not sure of the duration that the equipment is staying there, but it is, and this isn't an every single day occurrence where there's equipment out there, but there are times when there is equipment out there, so this happens to be one of them. If you go to the next photo, that is in February. The recreational trailers still haven't moved. You also see 2 trucks, 1 truck with a trailer attached to it, and then if you go to the next photo, this is in March, and you still see the recreational trailers. So unfortunately, if he was notified back in the fall, and then these recreational trailers sat there for almost 6 months, I'm not really seeing that as a timely solution. And I think the biggest thing for us, like I said, this is our backyard view. This is the view from my office, this is the view from our kitchen, this is the view of our backyard. So unfortunately, we just have a different perspective than the other neighbors.
Yeah, the way our house is set up, we spend 99% of our time in the back looking out towards this.
Yeah. So the other thing too, as far as our understanding from the original special use, is that the property needed to be maintained. I understand it's other neighbors' experience where it has been. Unfortunately for us, we are looking at something that hasn't been maintained. That stone pile, for example, has been sitting out there at least for 2 years, if not longer. Like I said, we moved in 2021. We're just looking for some sort of solution to be able to enjoy where we live, I guess. So we were here last month for an application for a 10-foot fence to try to block some of this. Our property is significantly lower than our neighbor's property, so that's why we asked for the 10-foot. It's still not going to be able to block everything, but that was really the only thing we thought to do in our power. We got a quote for that fence. It was close to $11,000. So that's an expense that we don't want to do, but it might be something that we have to do if this is going to occur. And I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, just based on reading the original agenda or the meeting minutes from the special use permit, just based on the amount of variances that are required to use this property in the way that they're trying to use it, it's obvious that it's way too big for, its business is too big for the residential area that we're currently in.
Yeah, and I also think too, one of our concerns is, what happens, I guess, after however you guys vote and however this is over, how is it going to be enforced? Because I think the biggest question for us is it hasn't been enforced and there have been considerate violations of it, and we appreciate you guys, rehearing this now, but I just am not sure how to move forward with it, and then, if things are in violation, how it would be addressed. So unfortunately, we cannot be in support for it. We don't know you guys personally. We've only really talked to you guys twice. But we do apologize. It's just, unfortunately, the way our property is, it just doesn't work for us, so.
So, quick question, so
Yeah.
based on that last exchange, it doesn't sound like you've addressed the issues directly with the owners at 941 Gravel?
Nope, we have talked to them, so they've never talked to us either, so as far as if they're gonna store stuff up, but they came to our front door once and asked us if we were okay with the recreation of vehicles. We said no, and then I talked to the neighbor one other time when they were taking down the fence to ask them what his plan was with the fence, and that's when I said, okay, we might try to pursue, because he said that he was gonna re-put up the existing fence on the lower portion directly on the property line, which would have given us basically no coverage. So that's why I said that we were gonna seek a taller fence, which I told him. That's the only time we've ever talked to them.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yep.
And Josh, to answer your question, how do we enforce? I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know it's an issue until somebody tells
Yeah.
us, right? So it needs to come back through Josh and Jim and the town for us to be able to do much of anything.
Yeah, I think what Alex was saying, her point is that it shouldn't be on us to make the neighbor comply with the rules that are set forth for it.
No, but it is on you to let us know that it's an issue.
Yeah,
Right.
which
We get that.
Yeah, which we definitely get. I think the other thing too, just to kind of close this out, is to kind of really take a look at these pictures and ask yourself if this is something you would want to look at day in and day out for months and months and months, and ask yourself how you'd be able to enjoy your property, how you'd potentially be able to sell your property if you were going to put it on the market. So I just think there's a lot to consider. So yeah, I appreciate your time and everything, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll let you respond after all the public comment is done.
Good evening. Kim Jenkins and Olga Pazorov. We live at 545 Galbro Circle, and we are directly behind the portion of this property that has the most heinous, I would say, of things going on. So the property, Olga's owned the property since 1998, and when she bought it, it was a premium lot because right behind her was all woods. There was nothing else back there. So at that time, it was premium, and now our property value, we both sell real estate for a living, so the property value is diminished immensely because of what now we have to look at behind the property. And it is absolutely untrue that all of those things are only out during the daytime. They are there all night long, but obviously we can't take a picture at night because it's not going to show up. But it is absolutely not true that they are. Wouldn't have the late night though. And we have the original notes from the public hearing for the special use permit. We're asking tonight that that be revoked because it is really a difficult situation for us to deal with. Olga has had contact with a neighbor in terms of, like, for instance, a tree that was on his property fell and caused a $40,000 insurance claim against the property, and she asked him to do something about it. He did absolutely nothing. There was another tree that fell a few months prior to that onto the property. She asked him to move that. He said he would. He never did. We had to cut it up and get rid of it, and we have text messages proving all of that. But just literally today, the Bobcat is not actually pushed into the shed like it should be. It's out from, so even today, as he sits here, it's not where it's supposed to be. In the original permit, it says that there can be no outstanding violations in order for this to be here, and that the occupancy is operated in such a manner that it does not disturb surrounding residential community. And all of the business that goes on here disturbs completely the residential community. The people that live up on Gravel Road that spoke in support, his property looks nice from Gravel Road. It really does, and those are the neighbors that are here speaking. It's those of us who are behind that are the most impacted by all of this that are here asking this to be revoked. Yeah, we did bring, I mean, there's videos of him operating
Let's just play, I
equipment
think
and
we'll just kind of.
early in the morning,
Play-
6:09 a.m.
So,
There's like,
so
you
I
know.
see that you have a lot of YouTube videos.
They're all short, like I made sure to keep them, they're not minutes long, they're all few
Okay,
seconds.
as I was gonna say, if we can pick one or two
No,
that are
no,
most
I'm-
Well, I mean,
representative.
you know which they are, right? So
Let me, like,
we don't need the very email, it's not like, but where's the started before 7:30 in the morning, that one's a
Yeah,
nice
let's
one
do
for us
that.
to wake up to, yeah.
there was some 6 o'clock.
Oh, I don't know if it's on there or not.
No, it's there.
There's one from 6 a.m.
The first one.
Oh, the first one? Okay, then let's do that one. No.
The first,
No,
I'm
those-
sorry.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Which one?
Yeah, the early morning ones, those are the, yeah, okay. So the first one, maybe.
Backup noise.
The volume can't go up anymore on it.
No, it's okay. I mean, there's a good one of like the dump truck being, slammed around, that is a good one.
There we go.
So I assume this is not, something that's supposed to be allowed as a storing of the vehicles, and from what we understand, it was supposed to be only driving them in and out, and parking in the structure, which obviously is not what's happening, and this is the noise that we hear all the time. Not to mention the diesel fumes. Like, it's impossible to clean that side of the house clean. The windows, because all the debris, and I try to open the window and enjoy the lilacs that I have planted. Instead, all I smell is diesel fuel and all of that noise.
And in addition, in the original paperwork here, it says no business activities are conducted on site with the exception of office bookkeeping. So literally, only things inside of the house are supposed to be conducted for the business, and it's clear that he's operating the business outside. I feel like there's.
And also, like, all the debris that he is bringing from his jobs is getting there. And further down, that's from Alex's view. In the pictures, you'll be able to see all the debris that now, especially as the rains have come through this spring, just how much washout happened, and all the asphalt and all the debris and all the concrete that got piled up there.
Yeah, it's hard packed, so it doesn't absorb any of the water, so everything is coming into our yard, and you'll see in some of the pictures what's happened to now our yard because of how that's been filled and graded.
So that's a premium lot view right now. You can just scroll through, Josh, and like this is obviously got brought from another job, because that's like, I don't know, like a lamp, cement post or something like that. All of that. And, like, I'm sure if the neighbors from Gravel Road have to look at that all day long, they'll probably have a different opinion.
They do look at it.
Not this part of it, we
Not
look at all of
the
this.
neighbors.
We look at all of this. Nobody else has, we are the most impacted lot by all of this, literally.
So, all these vehicles have been stored and knowing that they're a violation, and they have not been moved until 3 days before the court appearance. So that's set there from us, so we cannot pretend that we don't know what the rules are.
And still, like, there's still
All of them.
three trailers on the property today and an RV.
So as of right now, it's already in violation.
There's a small gray trailer, there's the big white trailer, there's a flatbed trailer in front of the barn, and then there's the RV.
You just keep scrolling. So obviously, he's doing work. And with the grade issue that now is becoming, like, Ms. Fuller was over there earlier, and she literally stands on my property, and the grade on the neighbor's property is almost to her height.
When the property was purchased, everything was level from our property to his property. And since then, now it's all, his property is built up.
So unfortunately, that is a different
I
component,
understand it, but it all goes to that he's bringing this fill in from other jobs, putting it on the property and then pushing it out. That still is.
Do you know if the fill that's being used is compliant with what the permit allowed?
It's not because it has hard pack in it. There's not, we have that here too.
If you scroll a little bit more, you can see like asphalt under it that's buried. I mean, we can just scroll quickly, like, that's okay. Oh, there you go. That's
the water.
That's the current drainage situation, what was created, and after that receded, for weeks it still sat, and all the green algae grew. There you go. And basically there it's becoming a wetland. I mean, I know he graded it a little bit, it remedied the situation a little bit, but it's still like, I haven't been able to cut lawn there the entire season so far because it's so wet. Yeah, we can just, that's a good representation of how the yard looks. And if you keep scrolling, Josh, I think I want to show one particular picture. Keep going. Once the rain washed off, where you can see the asphalt that's being buried, under the ground that he piled on top. So, you can see like the dump, he just brings the dump trucks and dump trucks of stuff and just dumps it there. Getting close. And, we don't have arborvitae or fence,
Yeah, he didn't do any of those things to our side of the property.
So that's literally, there you go, that's the one I was looking for. So as you can see, like this from my angle, is that once the rain washed off, the underneath, although on top of it is some sort of a dirt, underneath is an asphalt. So you can see that everything that's in that multiple feet of fill that he put in there, it's all the junk.
It's debris from his job.
Okay, I mean, we're good. I mean, that's a good representation of things. And that's all the trees that need to come down according to the use fill permit.
I appreciate it.
But that's a different, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got anything else?
No, I think
Okay.
we pretty much, I'm just trying to.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments from anybody else? All right, if the applicant, or if the property owner and representation can come back up.
Okay. Trees falling down is part of Mother Nature. Ash trees rot, locust trees rot, okay?
So I'll just jump in real quick. There's clearly components of a business that, from what I'm seeing and from what I've seen, because I've been to the property, that is not in compliance with what the, what this board had provided was it 10-plus years ago? And then there's stuff that
22 years
is
ago.
Mother Nature, right? I mean,
Right.
absolutely. So there's, I'm trying to separate the two. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Right.
we have
Correct.
5 components
I agree.
of storage of materials,
I agree.
storage of equipment,
Right.
and work happening on the property for the business, not for the property. So there's components that is happening on this property that is in violation of the variance that was provided, with the guidance that was provided at that time. So I guess, I don't want to talk about the trees, I don't want to talk about the fill, that's a different
Right.
application. I do
Right.
want to talk about the storage.
construction- The trailers, the recreational trailers are a separate issue, okay? The trees are a separate issue, okay? And citation for the 3 trailers was February 26th of this year, not September. I got the letter right here from the town. Okay?
And that next day, they were moved where they belong.
And you're allowed 3 trailers, or RV materials. 1 in front, 1 on the side, and 1 in back. I can give you the code number if you'd like it. Okay? So he chose to originally put them in back because he thought it was nice and neat. Why have a snowmobile trailer out front, his camper on the side, and then his motocross trailer in back? It doesn't seem to make logical sense. From the neighbor's point, I can see their point of view. They don't want to look at all 3 of them stacked up nice and neat. So we're not claiming that Tim has not made errors, okay? We're not claiming that at all. All that we're claiming is that every time he has been cited, he's taken definitive, quick action to modify the situation, get his equipment under cover, et cetera, et cetera. And he's not, it's not like he can't use his Bobcat on his own property to regrade.
I don't have material at the property
Right.
for resale. Everything I
Right.
do on the property is for myself.
It's not,
So sorry,
Go ahead.
you loading a dump truck,
Getting rid of the stone pile that everyone's complaining about. We made it go away.
that you just said that you were going to be using on the property.
I
So,
just-
I mean, I want to understand, I'm watching a video of you loading a dump truck
Yep.
of stone that is stored on your property,
Yep.
and so,
Yeah, we
I'm
made
confused, I guess.
We made the stone pile go away. That was before.
Well, the stone pile is still there as of today.
It is. There's another stone pile, a brand new stone pile. Because Pat Stevens came over, I need a 2-to-1 slope. Behind the barn, where there's trees coming down tomorrow, needs to be re-stoned. I got a stone delivery today that's gonna get graded out once the trees are down. Pat, correct? You came over, took a look at everything, everything looked okay? Did you wanna say something?
I'm sorry, what's that? Well, if you're going to speak, I need you to come up to the mic, unfortunately.
You want to know about the fill permit? You said you didn't. But,
That's a separate issue, so.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what he.
Okay.
Yep. So I mean, I use my equipment on my property, and it was stipulated when I got the permit that because I have equipment, I'm allowed to use it on my property. The kids build dirt bike jumps all the time. They ride their electric dirt bikes around in the backyard. They ride their little pit bikes around in the backyard. I mean, they're not stuck in the house all day, they're kids. So, I'm sorry we use the property for recreation, but I don't want my kids stuck in the house all day.
I don't know if anybody here was talking about the use of pit bikes and whatnot on the
Well,
property.
they use the Bobcat to build jumps and stuff like that, so.
Josh and Jim, I don't know if you guys can answer this because of how long ago this was. The storage of the commercial vehicles to be stored inside. Does the building that's out there, does that did that meet the requirements or what was presented to the board at that point? Or I don't know, you were on the board at that point as well.
That building was actually added, there's the original barn, and then there's another section that goes to, off to the back of it. That was added at the insistence of the zoning board so that the equipment could be stored inside the building when not in use, as opposed to being out in the open all the time.
The reason I'm asking is that back portion is a three-sided barn.
Yes.
It is not a four-sided.
Correct.
So.
And that was approved by the planning board.
Okay.
The applicants had actually asked for a larger footprint so that more could be stored inside, and the size was reduced, I believe at the request of the planning board, but I'd have to go through the minutes again. But it was reduced from what was originally requested to satisfy someone. But that was the condition, was that the equipment be stored in the barn when not in use. Someplace in the minutes, and I can't find it right now, I'm sure that I can if I read it more thoroughly. The homeowner could use the equipment in their own yard for their own maintenance, but that employees could not be on the premises working on the equipment. Trying to think of what else.
So back when this was granted.
If I may.
Yeah.
If I may.
I do want to just add that the question was, is the building acceptable, or something along those lines?
Not per the building code, but per what was presented to this board at that point.
The board, one of the stipulations was the completion of construction must occur by June 12, 2012. I'd like to just point out to the board that the building permit is still open and active, or it's actually expired now. It never was closed out. The building department also reached out in 2021 to notify them and never was met with a response.
Okay.
Chris from the building department stopped over and gave me final approval on the barn.
Do you have that in writing?
It was from 2012, I could probably find it, yeah. Absolutely.
I would,
And also
if you
when-
can get that, I would
Yeah, I
really
know.
appreciate that.
Also, when the special use permit was granted, we had 9 employees, chip trucks, chippers, stump grinders. It's me and my son, that's it. Got a dump truck, a bobcat, and an excavator, that's it. That's all I have now. So, we've downsized quite a bit.
So then, I'm gonna ask a stupid question. At the time that you had 9 employees and all that equipment, the intent was all that equipment would be stored inside.
Correct. And for...
Looking at I'm looking at the
22
photos,
years.
and I've been out to the site over the last month or so. Every time I've passed it, there's been equipment outside. So now that you've downsized, everything can be stored inside, but it's not, I guess, so why is it not?
It is. And if you go over there right now, it's inside. Everything is in the front and stuffed in the barn. I mean, we could take a ride over there right now if you wanted to see it.
Not the recreational trailers.
Yeah, the recreational. Well, there is one snowmobile trailer in there because I didn't want it outside because we're allowed 3. So we did stuff 1 in there.
So just to toss a possible solution out besides Tim trying to be more diligent, how about if he proposes putting a berm along on his property where the 2 neighbors are and planting some trees for screening? And work harder at complying with his special use permit.
Can we say something to that? Since
No, the public session is closed, unfortunately. I guess I have a couple of concerns, right? I mean, and I appreciate you offering that. I look at myself, if I was in an R3 district, and you have some great neighbors, they're very happy with you. They came here to speak, right? I mean, that takes a lot for somebody to take time out of their Tuesday to come out to support a neighbor. So, you've obviously made good with some of the neighbors, right? You are in an R3 district. You haven't made good with all your neighbors, obviously. Again, on the flip side, you have a couple of neighbors here that are speaking against it. You know, there was a special use permit. As, you know, at your own admission, there's been things that you have not complied with, and every time that it has been brought to your attention, you comply with, but then all of a sudden it looks and appears to lax again, right? So we shouldn't be having this conversation.
I agree.
That you are not in compliance. You should just be in compliance. So to have you offer something to make amends, I appreciate it, but on the flip side, it's been 10 years, and I don't know how many times there's been violations or whatnot, but there's been what appears to be a reoccurring. So I don't know.
We've never had a letter or anything other than this year.
All the complaints have been in the last 12 months.
Yep.
Or any citations.
Documented complaint has been in the last 10 months.
So.
And everything has been complied with in the last 10 months. And that neighbor right there looks directly at my barn, and he'll tell you every night, my equipment is in there nice and neat, every night, since Jim has given us the letter.
So the permit's been in effect 22 years?
Nope.
And there's no documented complaints or citations except in the last 10 or 12 months? So either he's done a pretty good job for 21 out of 22 years, or he
has new neighbors, and it's...
Well, correct, I get it,
I mean,
I understand.
there's a plethora of reasons, right? At the end of the day, you're still in an R3 district.
Right.
There are still components that you need to comply with.
Right.
You know, you're saying that the equipment is stored in there at night. That was not part of the conditions. The conditions were in that barn, right? If you're driving home for lunch, I don't think anybody here is going to make a boo about it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that equipment, and I look at all these photos that you sat through as well, there was more than just at night that they were stored there. That, I mean, the pictures were taken during the day and throughout, right? So I'm seeing one thing, I'm hearing something else, is what it comes down to. So
pictures can be deceiving. It's a half a second shot, okay? And if the picture's in the morning and the equipment's coming out of the barn per se, I mean, it needs to get loaded on the trailer, maybe move, one piece come off the trailer, the other piece go on. Okay, I'm not saying loading stone in the back of the dump truck. So the photos and videos can be deceiving. I didn't see any date on any of the videos, but the point that I'm making is that if there haven't been any issues in 21 years to revoke his permit because he's had only...
You don't get a free pass, because even if you had 20 great years, and then you had one year where there are what appear to be by the photos, some legitimate concerns about some of your neighbors.
Correct.
Obviously, you have great relationship with a vast majority of them, but the people that have presented evidence, as it is a snapshot, show a different story.
Correct.
So just because, even if you were in perfect compliance those 20 years, doesn't give you a free pass to even the past year to say, well, look at my first 20 years, I did great.
It also doesn't indicate that the special use permit should be revoked because...
On its own, no, it doesn't.
Correct, okay.
But their silence shouldn't necessarily be construed as they're thinking you've done a great job. Sometimes you need to get to a certain point before you act.
I get it, I
So,
understand.
just to say that they haven't said anything until the past year, doesn't mean they haven't been affected or concerned about it. It's just, sometimes, just to be a decent neighbor, you say, okay, we'll let them go this far, this far, this far, until finally you say, I can't do this anymore. So the history of it, whether it's been 5 years, 20 years, or whatever, I think has very little to do with it. It's what's happening now, which is why you're here, based on the citations.
I would think the history of no complaints has a lot to do with it.
But
Meaning-
we also,
meaning
looking
he
at the
hasn't
photos, the
just
history has
disregarded it
changed.
forever.
The property has changed over the course of the time as well,
Correct.
right? I mean, there was,
The whole
there was
back end was all-
vegetation, that's right, there
The
was
whole back
vegetation.
end was all ash trees. They all died.
Yep,
I'm
understood.
sorry, it sucks.
No, and again, but.
And I don't want it like that.
But to your point, at the end of the day, the last 12 months is probably when the majority of a lot of this has occurred, right? So I get it. Prior, you didn't have a fill permit, so you weren't filling. Prior, you had
Well, we did-
vegetation.
We did have a fill permit
15 to
from 2015, when we allowed the town to come through our yard with a drainage project to help out the private drive next to us. They tied into the catch basin in her yard and brought a pipe through our property, which I told them, go ahead. I didn't give them a variance, because I didn't want to have to deal with the 15 feet with the variance. So I just said, yeah, go ahead. So they brought a catch basin over and did a complete drainage project on the private drive because the Shantz track flooded them out. When they did that, I got a fill permit because I was doing some grading. Then COVID happened, all the ash trees died, took them all down, graded.
My point to it is, a lot has changed on the property over the years,
I
right?
don't
So
disagree.
the point of, there hasn't been complaints, the property has changed, right? It is a big component of it.
Correct.
She has complained. So that's actually not.
So, again, I apologize, the public comment,
It's not actually correct statement.
understood.
So given that has occurred, that's why we offered to fence, screen, plant trees, and, get more cover. And tried harder to make sure that we're in 100% compliance.
Other comments from the board?
Josh or Jim, I know we've changed systems a couple of times. Do you have, from when this permit was issued 12 years ago, do you have a file of complaints that have been received, or I don't know how any of that works? I'm sorry.
We've moved over to a new system. We moved over to a new system within the last couple of years, and the only one that I have in our system is from 2015, and it was logged by the previous building inspector.
Okay.
That's when the sewer went
That's when the sewer went in.
in. That's when the sewer went in.
I don't know that it's when the sewer went in, I just know there's
Yeah,
a log.
Mr.
complaint.
Stevens actually gave me the date of the sewer project, because I didn't have that written down.
So to try to kind of bring this conversation towards a conclusion here, I just remind the board of the standard of review here. Direct your attention to section 350-103, section F, subsection 1. The purpose of this hearing is to determine whether there's been a material failure of compliance with any one of the terms, conditions, limitations, or requirements imposed by said permit. Obviously, that's a bit of a vague standard as to whether there's a material non-compliance, and that's for the board to determine. I would note that the board can decide whether to revoke the special use permit or alternatively impose any further conditions that they see fit in ensuring future compliance.
Thank you. So I guess I'll throw out there to the board, there's a lot of different things happening on the property. Obviously, some neighbors are happy with this particular property, others are not. There's a lot of different components You know, I agree, a tree falling is a tree falling. I'm not gonna, you know, could it be from Phil? It maybe, they're ash, a lot of them were ash trees, and the ash borer got to a lot of my trees as well. So I mean, trees unfortunately do die, especially when they're ashes in our region. You know, by what I heard was admittance of, you know, some violations of the requirements that were imposed upon this. Me personally, I've witnessed equipment out there, you know, over the last month or so. I'm not out there on a regular basis. You know, I guess I look to, again, if it's an R3 residential neighborhood, you know, I personally would not be happy with some of the photos in my backyard. So I can definitely feel for some of the neighbors. I went to the private drive on the other side, and it's night and day, to be honest, from at least what I saw. You know, one side is landscaped and, you know, lawn and, you know, berm and arborvitaes, and the other side is not. So there's definitely been a lot of there's a lot of moving parts on this. I definitely see that there have been violations within. You know, and you know, one of the other comments of, you know, when there's been violations, it's been resolved, but, you know, again, you see loading stone, there's still a pile of stone out there. I just, to be frank, I don't know what to believe, you know, is really what it comes down to. And that's where I'm struggling.
Well, and there are a lot of moving parts right now, because we've still got the fill permit. I know that Pat Stevens has been out looking at the impact on the drainage and keeping an eye on the fill, and filling it in to even it out. There's, between the private drive and Galbro, the private drive and that side of gravel are at one level, and then that whole neighborhood of Galbro is
Down.
probably 2 to 3 feet lower, the entire neighborhood. So anything that happens on the parcel is exacerbated by the change in topography between the two neighborhoods. And I don't know that there's anything, I don't know what resolves it. And I know Pat's keeping an eye on it, and I'm gonna stay in my lane and let him manage that. But is part of the situation there now because of, you have to take the trees down and then put in the gravel to remediate, and then you can do the 2-to-1 slope to make that side better. But how can you hide it? The berm obviously would, excuse me, work in some trees. You're not gonna plant anything along the property line because it's low and wet and nothing will grow there. Except, well, swamp willows, but those aren't actually gonna hide anything. And would I wanna look at it? No. But if it were buffered, I don't know, because there's just so much going on with it right now.
Well, also with the buffer, it's not like it's gonna be instant.
No, and the
It's gonna
trees
be
take a
10
while to
years
grow,
before,
and,
even if he plants good size, you know, shrub or trees, it's still not gonna be an
yeah.
immediate effect. So.
and a fence would help.
The fence will help, but like you said, because the grade difference.
Well, and I don't think
There's-
the fence can be on the lot line. I think the
No,
fence
it's
would
gotta
have to be at the peak of the elevation.
Right, on their
but-
property, not on the lower residence side, but even then, because I feel for someone that, when they buy something, especially when you're buying your house, it's a beautiful tree lot behind you, and you think, this is great. But you have no say, you have no guarantee that
Right.
that's ever gonna stay that way.
You have no
So-
control over the owner behind.
So it's one of those things, like, they could have clear cut it, or it could have burned down, or whatever. So in that respect, there's no guarantee implied. And especially if they were all ashes, and they all just died because of the emerald ash borer, that's, you know, they can't be responsible for an act of God, an act of nature.
Again, that's why, you know, going back to, this is really about the home occupation.
Right, but it's plain and simple, but it's not plain and simple because it has all these other active parts that are all affecting it. If it was just just the home occupation, we would have probably put a vote to it half an hour ago. There's just too many things, I think, that although they are separate, I think are difficult to separate from the overall action, which I know we have to, but I think for me, it's difficult to separate one from the other.
What it sounds like to me is the board is trying to find ways to mitigate the effect of the non-compliance, right? And really what the hearing is about is determining whether it was a material non-compliance with the use permit. So that is the threshold level question. So does this board find a material non-compliance? If yes, then the options are to either revoke the permit or impose other conditions to ensure compliance and perhaps other efforts to mitigate any of the visual impact.
Thank you.
So I mean, I'll answer that question for myself. Yes, I find,
I would agree.
Material non-compliance, right, is
I've
me
been out
personally.
there, I've been out there 3 times, and like you said, it could just be his bad luck that every time I've been out there, there have been vehicles there.
Right.
And it's not like I can't.
Commercial vehicles, not just.
No, okay, not, what appear to be commercial vehicles. I didn't look at the license plate, but there's a dump. There's I think it was a Bobcat or some sort of skid steer.
Right.
I couldn't tell because it was through the brush, but and it was at different times of the day, so it's not like I came at the same time every day and it was the
Right.
same situation. So I believe it is. There is some, based on the level of threshold that you presented, I agree with you on that there is.
Right.
But he obviously has worked with a number of neighbors to make it right with them. Maybe, a condition could be that he has to work with them.
Yeah, so let's answer the question first. I don't know what the other board members, how they feel, if they find a material non-compliance or not. I guess I'm asking the rest of the board.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know, I think we could maybe, there is obviously some non-compliance here.
Okay.
There's no doubt in my mind there's some non-compliance.
And that's all I just want to start with that first, because if we find that there's a non-compliance, then there's 2 options. It is finding a alternative solution or revoking. So what I'm hearing, and Corinne, I don't know if you're in agreement or not.
I've been in and around the property several times, and at times there have been non-compliances visible. The conditions as to why I can't
Sure.
speak to.
Yep. So with that, I guess, let's move the conversation then on to what do we do moving forward, right? I mean, 2 options. Do we find a solution that satisfies the neighbors that impose additional conditions, or do we revoke? I'm not going to speak for the other neighbors. I don't know if there is any conditions. I like the option that was thrown out, but I'm not the one living there, to be honest, right? Is what it comes down to.
Can we speak to it since we are the neighbors? Or
Not yet.
If I would add, because what was proposed are efforts to mitigate the visual impact on the neighbors, but I
Not
would
mitigated.
suggest that the board consider, if you are going to not revoke but impose conditions, that there should be conditions to ensure compliance, be it working with the code enforcement officer on a periodic basis, reporting back to this board on a periodic basis, so that the board can ensure actual compliance.
I appreciate that. And that it goes back to, and Josh, I don't know, we had asked that this come back to the board 6 months after it was granted, and I don't know, I don't think we have record of one way or the other if it
Yep.
came back.
We weren't able to find any record of it coming back at that 6-month increment.
Okay. So I guess I appreciate that, definitely on the, you know, making sure it stays within compliance.
I'll look too, because I think we do have record of coming back. I think.
If you do, that would be great.
Yeah,
Again,
I'll look back.
the town has switched systems and things may not have,
Well,
I mean, you're talking 22 years ago, so.
yeah.
well, and that's because we have the minutes from November, it was tabled, it went to December, the zoning board gave conditions, it went to the planning board to approve the barn, it had to come back to the zoning board because of the size, and then we don't have that documentation, and I don't, I can't remember what I did yesterday, I can't tell you what happened 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
But it seems like maybe it would be there, but I don't know that that will give us any information that
It won't, right?
that helps us.
No, absolutely.
And if we do impose additional conditions, I think we need to be painfully, wordily specific that, because going back and looking at them now, at the time, they seemed very clear cut, but we weren't specific as to when did the equipment have to be back in the barn, and when is it okay to have it out, and,
Right.
you know, so we,
I thought the stipulation was for at night, and that was
well,
totally
and
my
I
misunderstanding
thought
if it
we had
wasn't.
listed hours of operation, but
Yeah, and
Just
we
limiting
had.
outside storage or parking of the vehicles, right? So it doesn't stipulate.
It doesn't
So from
stipulate.
that standpoint, it is all the time unless it is leaving the property.
Right, so when we're unloading and loading and stuff like that, I mean.
If you're loading
Yeah.
to leave or
Yep. Or if I'm
unloading
pulling
to
stuff
park
out to get other stuff
that's
in
a
and
different
out.
conversation, but yeah, it's not parked
If it's
outside.
I didn't realize that. I
Don't be
thought,
using it.
I thought the way I got everything stacked, if the Bobcat's out front, I pull it around the corner, we go to work, we come home, we put everything back, we put the Bobcat back in. I didn't think that was an issue.
So,
One of the stipulations of the original permit already says that it's supposed to be stockade fence or pine trees in between all the neighbors. That never happened.
understood. So,
Give it to them again, once it's in
The stockade fence was there all along.
Not in front of our property at all.
please, I mean, we're getting to 10 o'clock now, and this one, yeah, me too. So I'm looking to the board, you know, from my standpoint, I'll be frank, I'm struggling myself. I can come up with a number of additional conditions. I personally have not interacted with you other than here.
Yep.
So, you know, all I know is what I see with my eyes. And, you know, and then what I'm hearing, it kind of contradicts. So, I'm glad you have what appears to be a thriving business. I think that's great. You are in, I go back to, you are in an R3 district. You have a special use permit. The intent of the special use permit is to make sure you don't piss off your neighbors,
Yep.
right? And right now,
They're pissed.
you have, right? So where do we go from here? You know, I'm not your neighbor. I can come up with things that would make me happy. I'm not your neighbor. I guess, you know, the arborvitae's is great. As Chris mentioned, they are not going to grow in day one. A 10-foot fence would be phenomenal with the arborvitae's. That's not going to stop the noise. You know, that also doesn't relieve you of the requirements of the initial, you know, position of the board, right? So, I guess for me, I'm of the opinion it's a revocation unless we can come up with another solution. And I'm open to it, but I need to hear from everybody else.
I'm leaning that way, but I think because of the number of neighbors that don't have an issue with it, which again, they're in different different locations throughout the site versus looking at the back end of it, like the ones that have complained about it. But still, like you said, my issue is that I've been out there a number of times, and it's always in violation. And the fact that he says, well, every time I've been told, he takes care of it, but then it appears, since they're not new violations, they're repeat of the old ones, that he isn't as on top of the permit requirements as he probably should be. Now, whether that's intentional or that's just the way we work as human beings, I don't know. I don't think it's anything nefarious, but I don't see how any stipulations we can put on are going to rectify the situation for the neighbors on Galbro. Because like you said, a fence could block it. A fence with vegetation can make it a little more aesthetically pleasing, but that's not going to change the noise or potentially any issues from other things that are going on the site. So for that reason, I would agree with you right now if you said yay or I'm leaning toward revocation as well, unless the neighbors themselves that have issues with it said, no, we'd be okay with that.
Sure.
Which I would not be willing to bet they'd say at this point in time. And I'm not going to look at them because they'd say no.
Other board members?
I'm taking it away. Give them time to clean the stuff up and come back and apply again. And be monitored by code enforcement.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning with most of the people. I think the opinion is the revocation. I really don't see anything that would mediate the problems that are on Galbro. Nothing that's going to be easy and effective.
Right.
If he was to comply with the stipulations that were in the original agreement, with the hours of operation and stuff away and things like that, and maybe clean up around Galbro a little bit, I don't think there'd be as much of an issue as there is right now.
What would be his time frame if it's revoked this evening where he could apply again for it? Since it's a revocation of an existing one, is there a time limit?
I don't believe that there's a moratorium on reapplying for a special use permit. Josh, are you familiar with anything?
I'm not aware of anything
So
like that.
let's say he,
So it could be tomorrow.
right, but I'm saying that if we revoked it this evening, just theoretically, and he worked with his neighbors and cleaned up, got it to the point where they supported it, and he reapplied, in theory, it could be next week, right? So according to code. So we're not keeping him from rectifying the situation, we're just making him jump through another hoop.
Well, small business, we are asking him to find another place to park all his vehicles, all his commercial vehicles, right?
If we revoke it, I don't know if we give him the opportunity, is it revoked as of midnight tonight, or does he have 30 days, or?
You would typically provide a period of time.
Like if you gave him 2 months to find other places for his vehicles or something like that.
So what if we tabled it and we cleaned up?
I think we're beyond that, unfortunately. Okay. Just a thought. Appreciate it. Corinne, I see you thinking.
I'm torn on this. No matter what is done at the property, the noise isn't going to be mitigated by a berm or by the plantings. And even if it's early in the morning and just late at night and nothing in the middle, there's no way to cancel out the noise of diesel trucks or the backup alarms on the Bobcats. And I've lived it. We had a similar situation with a neighbor, so I don't.
However, if I'm looking at my photos correctly, if they're parked in the three-sided barn,
And leaving out directly.
and leaving out directly and not parked behind the barn, a lot of that noise would be mitigated by the barn being pulled onto a trailer. I mean, you're not going to eliminate it completely,
Right,
to your point, but it ends up being
But if you
mitigated.
can mitigate it, in theory, the way the property is laid out and where the door is on that building, if they're truly in the barn, the neighbors at 949 and 951 would be the ones that would be
Most impacted.
most impacted by it, and they're not. So, no, there is a small berm there, there are some arborvitae, but those arborvitae are not blocking anything at this point in time. They're
fairly new.
They're fairly new and young, and I don't know the right answer.
Yeah, the public hearing is closed now. You know, if the board is going to consider something short of revocation, then I would suggest, again, that there has to be some sort of schedule similar to what was in the original permit, probably on a more frequent basis, to ensure compliance with the actual, again, not the mitigation efforts, but actual compliance with the terms of the special use permit. Code enforcement officer, coming onto the property for random
Monthly or
inspections.
right.
And happen, every so often, set that schedule to come back. And that would be at the board's discretion, however often, if there's continued non-compliance, including some of the other things that were noted on the property that appear to need to be cleaned up. If the town, the board was inclined to do so.
Mhm.
But that's if you are seeking an alternative short of revocation.
I mean, and Corinne, I think I'm in the same boat you are, right? I mean, my revocation feels to be right, but I also don't want to,
It's just a touch severe.
Right.
Yes,
thank you.
Just a smidge, because I agree with you, I think, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think we all kind of feel the same way, and that seems to be the course to take, but, only because, like I said, his neighbors, you don't defend someone like that if you're just kind of about it.
Right.
You don't spend 3 hours here speaking up for him and saying, I'm okay with it. However, we also can't ignore the people that have come out in opposition for it and that have presented evidence that honestly, I think we've all seen as well.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the part where I'm torn. But like I said, I think if we were to relegate it, at least he knows what he needs to do. And that if he fixes the situation and feels that he's made a good effort, he can reapply for it. And it's not like he has to wait 6 months or a year. He could do it if he meets with the neighbors that have issues with him and says, okay, what can I do to try and make this tolerable for you? Because it's never going to be like it was before. Then maybe he reapplies. And whether that happens next week, next month, or whatever, but he's got an opportunity. Because that's, to me, if he couldn't apply for another year or so, I'd be even more hesitant for it, because we're keeping him from doing what he needs to do.
I can appreciate that. Thank you, Chris. All right. So this doesn't follow the procedure?
No, depending on the board's determination, you'll just want to make sure that the motion highlights the standard of review in that particular section.
What is the section again?
Here you go.
Where is it? Where's the sheet?
Okay. gonna try this. If I mess it up, please, somebody correct me. Regarding 941 Gravel Road Special Use Permit, Major Home Occupation Review, located at 941 Gravel Road. Town of Webster Zoning Board of Appeals has reviewed the major home occupation and has found, let's see, the home occupation is in violation of material failure of compliance with, let's see, eliminating outside storage or parking of the commercial vehicles, which includes the Bobcat and the chipper, with the construction, outdoor storage of the commercial vehicles.
And material as well?
I'm looking for it on here. What number is that? I don't see material on what I'm reading.
It's a general.
It's a general? Oh, okay, thank you.
With all terms of
Yeah, with all terms.
225-37,
Thank you.
which is now
What is the new section of the code now?
35037, is that right? No.
It should be.
Yes, 35037.
35037?
A2G is the one that has been cited by code enforcement.
Thank you. I'm going to start over. The Town of Webster Zoning Board of Appeals has reviewed the special use permit at 941 Gravel Road and has found the applicant has violated and has had a material failure of compliance with outside storage, parking of commercial vehicles, as well as materials as identified in section 350-37-A2G. This board is, I guess, making a motion to revoke the special use permit for said home occupation.
Then can we give them like 90 days to
I was
comply?
gonna say,
You can
Give 'em a
have
time period?
duration with that, however long, but yeah, you can put a time limit on
I was going to say 60 days.
Well, so, I mean, I think at least 60, because I think that's fair, because he needs to potentially find other places
Yep.
to do his stuff, and I think 60, it also allows him to, if he feels it's worth it, to try and work out any issues with any
Neighbors.
Neighbors.
Yep, absolutely. Is there any other, I guess, there's really no conditions on a revocation, so 60 days of compliance to find other means of, for his home occupation, I guess is what it comes down to. Restated home, 60 days to cease the home occupation. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Short,
Aye.
Mr. Santola.
Aye.
Mrs. Vola,
Aye.
Mr. Wagner,
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato.
Aye.
All right. Unfortunately, we have revoked the special use permit for the home occupation. There's been a lot of discussion here. I strongly recommend you get with your neighbors to see what resolution can occur. Because I hope to see you back here for it again with a resolution is what I'm hoping for.
Thanks, Board.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to table?
So,
yeah, table the next one.
he's leaving, so, yeah, okay. So there was a survey map that did not have full information on 941 Gravel Road, parking for recreational vehicles. I do recommend that we table that till the next meeting, at which time hopefully they can get us more accurate information.
Yeah. They're going anyway.
So I make a motion to table the 941 gravel road parking of recreational vehicles.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Let's see, where am I? Meeting minute approvals?
Not, we don't have any today.
Not today? Okay. I think with that, we're adjourned, or I have to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.